Zoe. Thank you. Well, that's very sweet. It's the dichotomy of any of these things. You have the one street that's doing fine. You have the other street that's clearly not. You know, that's the way that happens in a lot of these storms. But that's the worst damage that we've seen so far, clustered.
It definitely
today.
happens that way in a tornado.
Yeah.
It definitely happens that way.
And depending on water, it might happen that way.
But you got to worry about the hurricane now. It's still coming, and there's going to be some sustained winds and some wind gusts, and there's debris out there all over the place. I worry for them because they're already in a mobile home community. But she said she's not leaving. She's not leaving. She's staying right there. So we pray and hope for the best. And we're going to check in now with Maddie Herron live in Englewood. Maddie, last time we talked to you, there were people there who were kind of wishy-washy, at the very least, on whether they were leaving. What did you find out?
Yeah, exactly. And as you can see behind me, the water is already creeping into different yards. It looks a little bit like a river. We're going to go over to Jimmy. I first met Jimmy on Manasota Key on Monday when he was using the sand on Manasota Key to prepare for sandbags, prepare his home behind us. And Jimmy, why are you still here?
Where else are you going to go? You know, it's home.
And what are the ways that you prepared your home? And I know that you had a quick change of plans towards the end. Can you tell me about those?
So my mom recently had surgery, so we kind of just took her to higher ground because we do expect 100% to take on flooding here. So basically how we prepared, we just put all of our furniture on 5-gallon buckets to give it like an extra, 3 feet. And then we took all the valuables in the house and stacked them up on our beds. Our beds sit about like 3-4 feet off the ground and just got everything off the ground. And I took my mom about like 10 miles inner and put her in like a bigger house to, try to get her out of the flooding.
I know we can see it in your hair, my hair. There are some intense winds that are only going to pick up. How does that make you feel seeing this so early in the day?
It's definitely makes me nervous, the fact that it's already flooding and, the storm's not even here yet. It's like still like 8 hours away and we're already starting to take on flooding. Definitely not feeling good about it. I'm guaranteed the house is going to take flooding.
And you told me that your house saw some damages during Ian. What did that look like?
We got about like 2.5 feet of water throughout the house, just destroyed everything. Had to completely redo the house. Like what is like the terrible part about it is we kind of just finished up rebuilding the house about 6 months ago. Like it takes a while, like with insurance and everything. Just got finished, just to go through this again.
And there's not too many cars on the road near you with your neighbors. What have you gauged from your neighbors? Are they also heading out?
Yeah, I think this is the only neighbor left right here. Everyone else kind of evacuated. They're saying we're crazy for staying. Like, it's life or death. You need to leave, but I don't know. We always stay for him.
Do you feel like it's a life or death situation?
No. I feel like, obviously it's bad, but it gets, what's the word I'm looking for? It's just like, they make it seem worse, like in this area than it really will be. Like, yes, I do think we're going to take flooding, but I think we'll be okay.
On Monday, we spoke and you said you were 50-50 about evacuating. Did anything else factor into that decision to stay in Englewood?
Just staying close to your house, because the last time I had like family and friends evacuate, it took them like over a week to get back into town. They'll block all the roads off or everything will be shut down. You won't be able to get back into town. So it's like being close to your house is nice, as you can come and start assessing damage like right after, get everything fixed up.
But there is a risk with that as well.
Of course. You got it.
Well, thank you so much. Well, we appreciate it, and we hope that you and your mom, your friends, family are all safe if you choose to stay here. And we're going to keep you guys updated with how Jimmy and his family's doing, as well as other neighbors that chose to stay in the Englewood communities like the one behind me. Live in Englewood, Maddie Herron, Wink News.
All right, Maddie, thank you. East Frey Street there, clearly a lot of water already. And the one good thing we really heard from her is that most people in the neighborhood at least have left.
Yeah. We want to go to Port Charlotte right now, where Wink News anchor Liz Byro joined us earlier and is along Bayshore Road right on Charlotte Harbor. Liz, any changes to what you're seeing on the roads there? We know you had standing water earlier.
Lois, just the rain continues to come down. This next to me is obviously this is a swale right next to me. This is meant to build up water. But if you look over here, same thing. Water's just pooling here. It's pooling in front of the park. We're seeing rain come down. But what I do want to show you right here is this is the home of a man who evacuated. His name is Rick Confilty. He actually just left within the last half hour. This entire morning, he spent this time making his home more secure for Hurricane Milton. He got about 2 feet of water inside during Helene. You can see he put the shutters down. He boarded it up. We have I don't even know what the word for this is right now, but some kind of prop up to keep these boards up. You just do what you can do to keep your place safe and you leave. That is the key. This home, or this car during Helene, was floating during the storm. I mean, it's just, this is an area, this is Bayshore Road again on Punta Gorda, in Punta Gorda, that sees a lot of water. Now, as for the harbor right now, it's looking a little bit choppy, but the things have really just not even picked up yet. Now, when I did talk to Rick Confilte, he did stay for Helene. He told me with Milton, he's just not messing around.
It's getting too scary. You know, there's no sense in dying for a storm. This one's bad. You know, when the harbor overflows, it just nothing you can do about it. It backs up.
Okay, we apologize. We clearly have lost some communication with Liz right there, but you can see what she's watching along Charlotte Harbor, an area that floods often.
And all the water in all the different directions around the street there.
Right, swales are full.
They are.
And they will fill more.
Much room for it to go.
Yeah.
Wink News anchor Taylor Wirtz and Annette Montgomery live covering Manasota Key for us together. That weather there looks worse than the last time we talked to you guys. Does it feel that way to you?
Chris, I'm sorry, my AirPods are a little spotty right now, but we're in the bay behind Englewood Beach, and a concerning sight here. We've seen several boats out floating in the water, and there appear to be people on them as we've heard music, and you can see the water and that wind have drastically picked up. It's getting a lot rainier now, and that wind is whipping. We're kind of keeping an eye on some of the piles of debris around us. That's a bit concerning. You can see some trash cans over here. And then just across the road, look at that, all that pile of debris. Not a sight you want to see as this wind starts to pick up, but mainly these boats. There appear to be people just floating around aimlessly. I'm not sure if there are people on them, why they haven't left, but we have been hearing music, so it's almost as if they're just trying to ride the storm out on these boats. And my colleague Annette Montgomery, Annette, you found someone that's waiting with his boat.
I did. So as Taylor mentioned, we're not really sure how many people are actually on these boats, but he did say that he knows families are on that one. We actually heard music. Now that is his boat right there. I'm going to introduce you to him right here. Here is Merritt. Now, Merritt, I'm here now with our live audience, and I kind of just want to go through why you're out here. I know you said that is your boat right there. Can you tell me why you're out here right now?
Pretty much just to see how it's anchoring and everything, making sure it's holding anchor. And before the real big one comes, and had issues with Helene and got swept up near the bridge there, but luckily the communication lines caught me from actually going into the concrete. And I drastically improved the anchorage, so I'm now just hoping that it holds.
Absolutely. And what made you come out here to watch it? Were you just concerned?
Well, I live on the boat, and I learned after Ian not to stay on the so mostly just out here making sure that it's in good shape and not dragging anchor. The funny thing is, there isn't a heck of a lot I could do, even if it started taking anchor and dragging. There's really nothing I can do, except maybe take pictures, but at least just the thought of knowing and hoping that it holds during the storm.
Absolutely, that's your home. And speaking of that being your home, Merritt, where are you going to go after that? I know you're watching it now, but obviously...
Sister, I have relatives in town, so thankfully I have a place to stay. So that's pretty much... got some provisions, peanut butter and jelly sandwiches and stuff like that, for the... in case power goes out. And other than that, just kind of hoping, they're saying the wind shear is kind of messing with it a little. I'm just hoping we don't get, a lot of huge storms, sturge and bad winds.
Absolutely. And kind of last question for you, Mayor. We were trying to gauge how many people might be out on the boats. I know you said you saw some people on that one, correct?
Yeah, there's like 3 trawlers out there, and on at least 2 of them, there's people that they also live on the boat, and I think they elected to stay on the boat, but I'm not sure. But it looks like for sure there's at least one, and I see the dinghies and stuff around the other boat, which means they're probably on that one too. So I got all my dinghy and kayak out. I took it over to my sister's house because I usually go in right here to get to my boat. So, but anyways, great that you're out here now. I can't wait to see if you're going to be out here 4 or 5 hours from now. If you do, feel free to take a shot at the boat, see if it's still there. I'll be watching on the news.
All right, Mayor, we won't be out here, but we'll try to check on your boat before we leave. Thank you so much for speaking with us.
All right, thank you.
Have a good one, Merritt. And kind of, we're going to walk right now as Gabby is walking with me to just kind of show you the boat Merritt believes families are on. And we did hear music playing from there, so we do think families are out on these boats. But again, we are in Manasota Key, an area that's under a mandatory evacuation zone. The good news, we haven't seen really anyone on the roads, just sheriff's office vehicles. We have seen businesses boarded up, so that is a good sign. But we'll stay out here a little bit longer, drive around, and report back what we see. Live from Manasota Key, Annette Montgomery, Wink News.
Got to give the guy some credit for trying to get some help to keep an eye on his home, on his boat,
Absolutely.
on his home.
For the record, our crews will be well out of there
That's
before
right,
the weather gets that bad.
Too dangerous.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah. Well, let's take a look at a tornado that we got video from a viewer. This is near Clewiston in Hendry County. Just watch as this huge tornado crosses State Road 80 right now. And if you keep an eye on the cars here as this tornado is coming along, you'll see some brake lights go on as soon as they realize. And you see some of the power lines.
Wow.
You see the flash from the power lines that are knocked down, and the electricity there is interrupted. That is just quite the sight you don't want to see when you're on the highway or anywhere for that matter.
That's just frightening. Here's Weather Authority Chief Meteorologist Matt Devitt.
That is the largest tornado that, at least in my years at Wink, that I have seen. Very comparable to the one we had in 2022 in January, the one that went through Lee County. We have never had in Southwest Florida an EF3 or higher tornado. That one may give it a run for its money. Hope everybody was okay, taking it seriously. We have unfortunately had a tornado outbreak in Southwest Florida and across the entire peninsula. National Weather Service, they said they've issued like over 40 tornado warnings and still counting. So on that note, you know, when can we at least get one dynamic out of our head with this storm? And let's talk about that tornado potential. It's going to be elevated at high spots as we go throughout the afternoon. Goes down just a little bit, but still elevated within the moderate category as we hit midnight. And then I'm seeing, according to computer models, a big drop-off as we approach especially Thursday, 6 a.m. and all the way into tomorrow as we go deeper into the morning. So it will remain elevated basically for the rest of today, a little bit overnight, and then dropping off quickly after that point. So let's get you caught up to speed on the storm. Thanks again for tuning in and joining us. As expected, the wind shear, go baby wind shear, it is starting to hurt the storm, but the problem is it is still already a significant and powerful system. Category 4, as of the 3 o'clock advisory, we are getting these updates in every single hour. The max winds 130 miles an hour. That is primarily in a small portion of the northern eye wall. I'll show you that coming up. The pressure has been going up. That's good. The lower the pressure, the stronger the storm. The wind and the overall storm pushing to the northeast at 16 miles an hour. So let me show you that wind shear. It has really taken a toll to a certain degree on the system. As expected, it's interacting with it, but it is already a formidable and powerful storm that's going to be bringing wind, power outages, as well as the surge as we go deeper into tonight and especially into tomorrow. So here is the very latest on Wink Live Doppler 3X. As you can see, just the multiple tornado warnings that we have in effect. I actually have a way to clear all this out and look at all of these right now in effect, including the tornado warnings as well as the tornado watches. I mean, you talk about, we got warnings everywhere across the area. But what we have right now, let's zoom on in to the main eye wall. That's going to be the core of the storm. And there's a couple things I want to point out. Now, first off, we almost have, you see that at home, 2 eye walls. And that is indicative of a storm that is restructuring itself, but in this case, it's not going to get to the storm that it once was, and it's because it's interacting with drier air and wind shear. Notice how there's no bottom half here. Irma did the same thing in 2017 as it made landfall on Marco Island, and that is because it's wrapping around drier air. It's chipping away at the southern side, but it's not like there's no wind there. There's definitely wind there. It's just not to the intensity. That's the worst part of the storm. And if you were with us with Ian in 2022, This was the part that went over Charlotte County, the relentless wind and the rain, and we had over 20 inches. That is the worst part in terms of the wind as well as the heaviest rain, and you can even see some lightning in the eye wall. So we will largely avoid that in Southwest Florida, but we're not going to avoid the surge. The surge is on the southern half of the storm, but if you look very closely, there's one eye wall. There's one right there, and then there's another smaller one right here. The outer eye wall is actually taking away moisture and energy from the smaller one in the middle. So it's weakening and it's starting to collapse and almost getting absorbed into the bigger one. And that trend will continue as we go deeper into the afternoon and extending into the evening. But let's just take a look at some of the wind that is being analyzed right now offshore on the local radars that we have in the area, and these winds are being analyzed at 103 miles an hour. And look at that, another observation with winds being analyzed inside of the storm upwards of over 100 miles an hour plus, and that's what's going to make a beeline right towards Tampa Bay, Sarasota, and even some of those gusts working its way locally into Southwest Florida. Let's go back to the trajectory and that forecast, and let's see, almost kind of think of it like a wobble tracker. And yeah, we had a couple wobbles earlier this morning. There's one where it went north and then it kind of flattened out. But so far, it's been going according to plan over the past hour. The red line is the National Hurricane Center forecast, generally to the northeast. And if there aren't any deviations from that, that would have it working its way with the core of it towards either Manatee County or primarily Sarasota County. I would say Sarasota County probably has right now the edge for the landfall. But in the grand scheme of things, for us in Southwest Florida, that's kind of irrelevant. Where the center goes, impacts are going to be felt well outside of that itty-bitty center, and especially surge. And all of these outer bands, these gusty winds, are rotating around the storm and allowing the water to start to creep in and pile up. And that trend will continue as we go deeper into the afternoon. Looks like we have a brand new confirmed tornado warning. Let's talk about that real quick. And this is going to be approaching right near the Miccosukee Service Plaza. And this has been indicated. Let's talk about some of the stats here. And this is going to be in effect until 3:30. Reading off the report, a confirmed large and extremely dangerous tornado was located over Big Cypress and the Miccosukee Indian Reservation. I'm mainly pointing this out because if you know anybody right now that is on I-75 that is traveling to and from Southwest Florida, we have a large, dangerous tornado that is on the ground. This has already happened multiple times today, and there is the rotation, and this is basically right near the Collier and Broward County line, and it is a couple miles away from the Miccosukee Service Plaza. Let me do an estimate here. I'll show you, and it's about 2 to 3 miles away. Let's see if we have debris that is being picked up, and right now, no, but if you know somebody that's traveling on the interstate, please be on alert with that storm. We also had apparently some damage that has occurred from an earlier tornado warn cell. We confirmed that for you around Lakeport. The Wink team will be on top of that to get you pictures and videos as they come in. So unfortunately, damage was recorded there as well. Let's go back to the overall situation at hand, one after another, these bands of showers and storms coming in from the south. And same deal, every single one of these cells will be watched for potential rotation. So we are entering another threat. You know, this is going to be the real nasty band of tornadic activity. Then we see another band here, and then you have the primary core of the storm that will be heading to the northeast. Tampa Bay is going to get it. So is Anna Maria Island, Longboat Key. As this storm, yeah, the wind field has been, the max wind speeds have been going down just a little bit, but it's growing in size. highs. Look at the brand new Milton Winfield update, about 310 miles wide, and that's very typical. If they do weaken after becoming a Cat 4 or 5, they can expand in coverage, and now more of the area starting to see, at a minimum in yellow, tropical storm force gusts. In the red, that is going to be the hurricane force winds. If you're curious what type of wave action we have right now, how about 30 feet in the Gulf of Mexico near the core of the storm? And all of this water, all of this wave action will follow Milton towards its landfall. So all of this, we're not going to get 28-foot waves right along the coast, but it's that unsettled Gulf, those higher waters, that will be working its way towards the Florida coastline as we go into time. So on this line, we are here. And as Milton starts to approach, we're going to go up in the storm surge threat later this evening and overnight and all the way into Thursday morning. It still will be elevated, and I even expect elevated levels all the way into tomorrow afternoon and evening. Granted, not to the peak of what we see later on tonight. So this is literally your last chance. If you were told to evacuate, last chance here, because we're about to approach the incline of going to our maximum surge event by later on tonight and all the way into tomorrow. Let's take a look. I had a viewer that said, can you show the low tide and the high tide times? So let's do that. Here's a look at Charlotte County. What you see in the back is the worst possible scenario inundation. We were highlighting that yesterday on Wink. There's Englewood, Gasparilla Sound, Boca Grande. Hey guys, can you do me a favor real quick and we'll take down the banner on the bottom. Charlotte Harbor, low tide is pretty much right now. Your high tide will be tomorrow morning. Expect surge. We'll take into Lee County, Fort Myers, Cape Coral, Fort Myers Beach. There's Sanibel as well as Captiva, as water is going to be pushed up the Caloosahatchee, Pine Island, Sanibel, as well as Captiva. And then for our final stop, Everglades City, Marco Island, and Naples, the posted low tide and the high tide. Some of that is occurring actually right now, followed by the high tide later on today. We talked about the tornado potential that will be with us as we go throughout the rest of the afternoon and all the way into the evening. Here's a look at the highest wind gusts that we've had over the past hour, and this is what we have currently as the winds are gusting to 34 for Everglades City, 48 for Sanibel, but you saw the eye wall is still offshore. That's where the maximum wind is. So we are occasionally gusting upwards of 40 to 50, even some spots over 60 miles an hour. So here's the hour-by-hour forecast in terms of the highest wind potential and threat. Now, in this graph, I have to pick one spot. So I picked Punta Gorda. Now, you can extrapolate that. If you're more south, you probably won't reach these levels, or at least the peak height of the wind graph. But if you're maybe closer to Milton, you could be higher than this. So this is set for Punta Gorda. So you can see that we start to see the possibility for tropical storm to hurricane force wind gusts, not sustained, but the gusts, as we hit later this evening overnight. And that's also when we see some of that surge. And it's because of higher winds, more force, pushing up the water. So this is going to be the wind gust forecast, and then still at tropical storm force levels for the beginning of tomorrow morning. And then after that, as Milton starts to go away, the winds will lower as well. So let's take a look at our future track model as we go into time. And here's how I expect things to play out. I picked a model that has a very good handle on the current situation. So here's a look at about 3 o'clock right now. And then you can see the core of the storm. Focus very closely on this. That's going to be the strongest wind component. But you see that blue ring right there on the bottom? Almost think of that as the greatest surge component. We want to avoid this. This is where the National Hurricane Center has their maximum surge forecast, because that's the strongest wind on the southern side. Northern side is going to be right here. So let's play this out, and you can see where that goes. Here's a look at 5 and 6 o'clock. Still seeing outer bands on the eastern side, and then it continues to rotate at 7, 8, and 9 towards its eventual landfall. This is at 9 o'clock with our future track model, and there will be some breaks. We're not going to see rain for 12 hours straight. Rain off and on And then you can see eventually it narrows in on this part right there of the Florida West Coast. But you can see Tampa Bay gets that northern eye wall. But then remember how I said earlier about the southern part? So the southern part, you have the strongest wind, and then on the northern part, you have the strongest wind, but not the surge. So right here is where I believe we will have the greatest surge component, because it's the southern eye wall and the max force of the water. And that's basically in the areas that have been highlighted previously for Sarasota County, Charlotte County, and especially in Collier County. But hey, for our good viewers in Collier County, you guys will see surge too. But that's the logic behind why primarily Lee, Charlotte, and all the way into Sarasota County would see those higher surge levels, because we get the southern extent of the storm as it rotates around. And then there should be quite a bit of weakening as it works its way inland, still some wraparound bands, but we have that persistent wind coming in from the Gulf. Here's Thursday at 4 o'clock, so tomorrow overnight, and then extending into Thursday, 9 a.m., off and on bands of rain. And then don't be surprised to even see the sun come out, as we will see eventually Milton work its way out of our state and into the Atlantic. So we will continue to get you these updates for the very latest on the storm. But in the meantime, let's toss it back to Chris and Lois.
Yeah, we can speak for everyone and say the exit can't come soon enough.
Yes. I don't know that we want to go through all the components of it, but we at this point need to get this thing out of here, and we'll figure out. The hardest part is going to be, a lot of it's going to happen overnight.
That's right.
So the sounds of it, if you've never been through a hurricane, we're going to be with you here all night. On Wink TV, on the Weather Authority. What we're going to do right now is take a break. Russ McCaskey and Amanda Hall are going to take over for a little while, and then we'll see you back here in just a little bit. You're watching the Weather Authority Wink News. We'll be right back.
Homeowners turning into their parents.
Oh, are you done with this? I'll just take that.
Okay. He's still drinking.
Right. Oh, look what the cat.
Nope. Let's try again. You wouldn't mind? It gets ugly. You can either take it off or I'll take it off you. Yeah.
Progressive can't protect you from becoming your parents, but we can protect your home and auto when you bundle with us.
You loved it. Take
Doesn't
it.
want it.
President Trump is leading the fight to empower parents and students.
We will give all parents the right to choose another school for their children if they want, called school choice.
President Trump is right. Kentucky parents deserve a voice in what their children learn and a choice in where they go to school. Give Kentucky students the education they deserve. Vote yes on Amendment 2. Trump supports school choice, so should you.
Yeah, we can get that submitted by Monday.
At U-Haul, we know every family moves at their own pace.
Come on, guys.
That's why we have U-Box.
Is that heavy?
Where you can pack in a day.
Hi, Mom.
In a week.
It's starting to snow.
In a month. We can store it or ship it.
I think that's the kitchen.
How?
You guys excited about the new house?
And when you want it.
Thanks, you've been lifesavers.
Don't want to lift a finger? We got you covered there too. U-Box by U-Haul. Move at your pace. Reserve today at uhaul.com.
Looking for a reason to try the new $5 meal deal at McDonald's? Here's 1, 2, 3, 4, and the price makes 5.
So much.
That's everything you get with the new $5 meal deal at McDonald's.
We're happy to announce another new partnership in our growing Battleground community. You can now stream Battleground on Zeem, the go-to source for live local TV. Visit Zeem.com for more details. With our laser focus on local reporting, Zeem is a perfect match for our mission.
illegal drugs like fentanyl have destroyed lives. I know because I've seen it firsthand. Amendment 3. The smarter and safer choice for Florida.
Wink Closed Captioning is brought to you by Germain Toyota of Naples. It's fast, simple, and easy.
Good afternoon. It is 3:30 on Wednesday afternoon. I'm Amanda Hall, joined by Russ McCaskey, and we're joining you from our Gateway studios now.
Yeah, just as we have crews spread out across Southwest Florida covering the storm, we also have multiple locations where we can broadcast from so that if one gets knocked off the air for whatever reason, the other will be up and going, so we can stay with you as we're going to every step of the way through this storm.
Yeah, Hurricane Milton still a powerful Category 4 hurricane. We're covering it all for you. First, we want to go to Wink News reporter Tiffany Rizzo, who is joining us live from downtown Fort Myers with the vertical evacuation, because that is Zone A, but you have a bird's eye view of the downtown area, Tiffany.
Yeah, that's right, Amanda. So I'm in a high rise here, so we are just keeping an eye on this area. What we notice right now, it is very windy, but we're not really seeing those heavy rains just yet. And if you take a look, this is First Street over here. There's no water on the roads yet. It's not flooded. That surge hasn't come in just yet. So we're going to be up here keeping an eye on all of this. Now, the Caloosahatchee is over here. You can see one of the boats that's still left behind from Hurricane Ian. So we're going to keep an eye on these water levels out here, as well as this wind. But as you can see right now, we're just dealing with very windy conditions. So we're going to be keeping an eye on the downtown area from this vantage point. I'm reporting live in downtown Fort Myers. Tiffany Rizzo, Wink News.
Tiffany, thanks. That appears to be a pretty safe place to be.
Yes.
So that's why they're up high, so that they will not get into any flooding or anything.
Absolutely. We're still about 9 to 12 hours away from when we expect to see that water start to come in. So we have a long way to go yet. So sit tight, folks. I want to go now to Wink News reporter Haley Zarconi, who is live near Fort Myers Beach for us. Haley.
Yeah, that's right. And we are here off of San Carlos Boulevard. I want to show you the water that's starting to come up on the roadway. We've got water puddling up over the roadway here. And then if you look over this way, you can see water coming in through that vegetation right there. And really, I've got more to show you, because that water is actually our sign to go ahead and hightail it out of here after this live shot, because we don't want to be stuck in that water any more than you guys do. But I'm going to walk this way. My photographer Eric and I have been watching over Getaway Marina for really the past 40 minutes. I did my last live shot here at 2:50. It's now 3:30. I was standing on that dock at 2:50. That dock's now underwater. And there was a man here earlier. He was helping, trying to tie up his boats. I've watched him anxiously just walk up and down this marina, looking out at the boats. I can tell you what, you can't tell the difference in some points between the water and the dock. They're all one and the same. We're starting to see the surge. We're getting bands of rain here now. Definitely feeling some of those gusts. I mentioned this in my last live shot. There's about a little whistling sound here because of where sails would be on these boats. You can hear them just moving in the wind. I also want to talk to, if we're seeing high water here, you know those people in those homes over there are seeing more of the same. And this is the type of surge that we're starting to see, and this really isn't nothing yet. We're just watching as this water comes up, gets higher and higher, and if people are in those homes there too, they're starting to see more of the same. But this is our last live shot we're going to do here. We're going to go farther inland so we can get away from this high water too. I'm going to go ahead and toss it back to you guys live on San Carlos Boulevard. Haley Zarconi, Wink News.
All right, Haley, thanks. Yeah, you can see that water starting to come up. And again, many more hours to go. We're going to keep an eye on it for you, of course. Meantime, people on boats in Englewood. Let's get to this video. It was taken by Wink News reporter Taylor Wirtz. This was about 3 p.m. And she said that she could actually hear music coming from those boats out there. So it looks like there may be some people trying to ride out the storm on the boats. Of course, that is not advised, but we will try to keep an eye on that situation.
Yeah, not the place that you want to be. Maybe they were on their way in. I'd like to think so. We hope so. We have some video of some of the flooding in Punta Gorda, neighborhoods near the Peace River. This is Prairie Creek Drive around 2:30 this afternoon, and you can see it is already so saturated, so much water already.
All right, I want to go to video of strong wind and rain caught on camera in North Fort Myers, and you could see that debris. This is Hidden Acres, and you could see that debris flying. This was around 2:28 p.m. Looks like maybe a Ring doorbell camera caught that. But that is what everyone, I think, fears. That's why you want to put the shutters up or have impact-resistant windows or those kinds of things, because once stuff starts flying around, who knows what's going to happen. But very dangerous situation there.
Yeah, that's a friend of mine in that Hidden Acres community. It's an older neighborhood with a lot of old, beautiful trees, and they're going to have a lot of tree damage, roof damage, it sounds like, too. Some video here from a viewer that shows intense storms in North Fort Myers, including what looks like a transformer blowing. Let's see if we can see that pop. We got this right around 2:15. Okay, there's the dogs. There's everybody. Okay, there's the big light spot right there. But looks like they're riding it out with their fur babies inside. Stay safe, folks. I want to get to some video now of a huge tree that gets knocked over. Take a look at that one. That is a massive tree. It's been around a long, long time. This is Fort Myers Villas sent this in around 2:15. So you can see some of the damage that has already been done around the area. Yeah, when you think about how strong those trees are and then see them just toppled just so easily. Video from Colonial Boulevard and Summerlin in Fort Myers shows the tornado damage from a viewer around 2:15. I've heard from a lot of people in this area that said that they were already without power, had been knocked offline early this afternoon. All right, now I want to go to a pic of a snapped power line. This is on Garden Boulevard in Northeast Cape Coral, sent in by a viewer. This was about 2:15. You can see the poles are leaning, but you can see that at least one line hanging down there, and that becomes a very dangerous situation as well. That's one of the things that you fear. That's why you don't want to go out too early after the storm is over and those kinds of things. You want to make sure that it's safe. Yeah, you don't want to drive, and you don't want to even walk out into that flood water either and try to look around because, like you said, you don't know if those are in there. You don't know about the critters that might be in there as well. Good video from a viewer showing a strong band of weather moving through. This is Hanover Street in Fort Myers. We got this around 2 o'clock, and wow, you can see those flashes, and you can see almost looks like a swirl too as we're watching those winds and watching that tree get whipped around there. Yeah, it really does. It's tossing it around back and forth. All right, I want to go to some images now showing a downed tree in Fort Myers. This is La Palma Street near Winkler Avenue. Again, this was around 2 p.m. when we clearly had that one band that had come through and certainly did a little bit of damage there as well. Tree limbs down. Hopefully that's all the damage that they'll get from this storm. Yeah, we have some roof damage from near Allen Park Elementary in Fort Myers, where it looks like a tree landed on another home there. And it looks like it's hard to make out what that is in the background behind the blue home. Maybe a shed or a carport or something. But yeah, parts of a roof looks like torn off. Right now we want to check in with Sylvie Sparks, who I know was monitoring the evacuations, but is also checking some of our Florida Department of Transportation traffic cameras to just see the deteriorating conditions out there.
Right, Amanda. Like you said, many people, if they were going to evacuate, probably have already done so. Hopefully they have. If they haven't, I mean, just look at this. This is up in Sarasota County at US 41 and Oscar Scherer. You can kind of see the road right here, but clearly it is so shaky. There's wind, there's rain. You just don't want to be out driving in this right now. And I know this is up in Sarasota County, but we've seen weather be like this, and it could be like that again down here for us in Southwest Florida. Let's go to weather too, and I actually have a shot of Lake Okeechobee Park. Same thing, these storms from the outer bands of Hurricane Milton. Nikki Sheeks was giving me me the tips on that back in the Weather Center, but it is just not a good time to be out and about. You definitely want to be hunkered down somewhere, sheltering in place. But if you are going to be out and about driving, if you are still needing somewhere to go, thinking about evacuating, let's talk really fast about my safe driving tips. If we can go over to maps, and I'll run through those just real quick. We're going to talk about driving in high winds, because obviously, that's not me. There it is. Driving in strong wind. You guys want to have a firm grip on the steering wheel, give large vehicles space, and have extra caution on bridges and overpasses. If you're in the Cape, if you're in North Fort Myers and you think I should probably go somewhere else, go over them, but go slowly. Hold very tight onto that steering wheel. And obviously we're going to see a lot of rain today. Turn your windshield wipers on, turn your lights on, and slow down. Again, you guys probably know most of these things, but doesn't hurt to touch on if you are about to be leaving your house. Turn around, don't drown. You see 6 inches of water, it can stall your car, you can lose control. A foot of water, that can float vehicles away, and 2 feet of water can carry away many vehicles. Be careful. Again, you saw how bad the road conditions are, not a time to be out and about on the roads, but if you do have to evacuate right now before Hurricane Milton hits, remember these tips. That's your Wink News traffic.
Sylvia, thanks. Also good advice for tomorrow as well. Whenever you get out and about, you don't want to drive through that high water. Sometimes the creeks and so forth fill up with water, and then the water comes back out the other way, so it can flood roads that maybe weren't flooded at one point.
Yeah, we did see that after Ian. That really comes to mind, especially when we think about Collier County. We saw that happen. We have some more videos that we want to get to of some of the damage from tornadoes and possibly straight line winds. A tornado touchdown by Colonial Boulevard and Summerlin. Knocked over that sign there. This is in front of Wesley Memorial United Methodist Church around 2:30 this afternoon.
Wow. All right. Also, people on boats in Englewood. This was taken by Wink News reporter Taylor Wirtz. That was at 3 p.m. Again, she said she could hear that music coming from those boats. So we're going to continue to monitor those folks, and hopefully they're able to get off those boats.
And a couple of pictures of a tree that fell onto a vehicle from a Fort Myers viewer that sent to us around 2 o'clock. I'm so sorry to hear that. That's unfortunate. But we're showing you some of the damage, especially the wind damage from earlier. And then as our team of meteorologists at the Weather Authority have been telling you, the surge event is what's going to happen later. The scary part about that is it's happening in the overnight hours.
Right, sure, yeah. So, and there's going to be little breaks as these bands come through, but don't take it for granted that this is over, because it's going to be going on for a while. So just stay hunkered down and stay safe.
Yeah, we do have to take a quick break. You're watching Wink News, the Weather Authority.
IT, they got sucked into emails again.
It's okay. We just approved Grammarly for the whole company. It's AI, writes an instant first draft, and works everywhere.
We believe our culture is welcoming to all, but what do Jess and Jen think?
Oftentimes we have to do our research beforehand to determine whether or not it's a safe space. The local people of Tahiti were so surprisingly, genuinely friendly. We felt really welcome, nothing but embraced. It was amazing.
We're going to be talking about this for the rest of our life.
Everyone will feel treasured in the islands of Tahiti.
Looking for a reason to try the new $5 meal deal at McDonald's? Here's 1, 2, 3, 4, and the price makes 5.
So much.
That's everything you get with the new $5 meal deal at McDonald's.
President Trump is leading the fight to empower parents and students.
We will give all parents the right to choose another school for their children if they want, called school choice.
President Trump is right. Kentucky parents deserve a voice in what their children learn and a choice in where they go to school. Give Kentucky students the education they deserve. Vote yes on Amendment 2. Trump supports school choice, so should you.
the Weather Authority. We're glad to have you along with us. We're going to be here with you throughout this storm. We're watching it very, very closely. We've had some bands move through. We've had some tornado warnings, and now we're going to find out what's going to happen next.
Yeah, we've had several tornado warnings. I've had a lot of people sending in some damage, some storm damage from those tornadoes. Some of them will get confirmed later, but we've seen pictures, and the pictures are very telling.
Yeah, so we'll see how that goes. Right now, let's get over to our Chief Meteorologist, Matt Devitt, in the Weather Center. So, Matt, what are we looking at right now, current conditions?
That's right. So I would love to take this opportunity to show everybody the current situation at hand, not only with what you see on radar, but what we can physically see. I was able to create a graphic where I'm taking cameras incorporated into Wink Live Doppler 3X. So if y'all don't mind at home, I know you're hunkering down and you're watching Wink. Let's kind of give a tour of how we're doing across Southwest Florida. And we'll first start in Englewood. And here's a look at some of those live conditions, the waves kicking up, coming in from the Gulf. Now I'm going to take you to, this is going to be around Placida, where we are going to be watching those water levels. And you can see a little bit of an encroachment above the dock, and the surge is expected to increase as we go deeper into the late afternoon and all the way into the evening. We also have some occasional FDOT cams. Let's see if they're working. Yeah, this is around mile marker 160. We don't see that very often. Nobody's on the roads. Let's cross over into Lee County. Multiple cameras across Lee County. We do have, let me take you to Sanibel. Sanibel has seen off and on bands of heavy rain. Look at that one. Currently working its way through, and look at the palm fronds almost going completely flat there, with the waves continuing to crash in as the bands of heavy rain and tropical storm force gusts are eastward across Sanibel. This is Siesta on the beach. And so far, the water levels are looking good. If that changes, we'll let you know. We also have some cameras as you go to and from the causeway all the way towards the lighthouse. This is one of the cameras that we do have near the Sanibel Lighthouse, and we will be watching those water levels as we continue to go throughout the next couple of hours. And then let's take you to Fort Myers Beach. I tell you what, before I do that, we'll go to Cape Coral. Here's a live look with one of the cameras that we have along the canal. And this is the Rubicon camera. Hope I'm saying that correctly. As we have the winds that are continuing to come in from the Gulf, rotating around the storm. And then as we highlight areas of Fort Myers Beach, this is Diamond Head. And if you recall with Helene, this was all inundated. Now, we're not at the surge event yet, but we're going to have to periodically check on this to see the type of encroachment and how those water levels come in. So that's the current status around Diamond Head. Got a little bit right here. So again, we'll have to watch that status as we go deeper into the afternoon. Then we're going to take you inland. We also have an inland camera network. And let's zoom on in as we will take you to downtown Fort Myers. This is at the top of the luminary. And you're looking at North Fort Myers in the distance, the clouds rotating around the storm. We have at times seen winds gusting upwards of 40, 50, even 60 miles an hour. They're zooming on by. Live shot from downtown Fort Myers. And then as we give you also some more looks, taking you into Collier County, Marco Island. Here's a look at some of the current conditions. You are right now in between some of these bands of showers and storms that have been working their way through. But with this live shot, some bit of coastal flooding. But your main event is going to be later on tonight. So this is a live shot from Marco Island. And then also as we take it to Naples, last check, there were people out on the beach. Okay, looks like that band cleared them out. But look at this shot. We are starting to see the water coming in from the Gulf, and that's probably why they're not there anymore. So there's the Naples Pier all the way towards where it's guarded off, and it looks like we are starting to see some water come in. So what I'm going to do here coming up in a bit, I'm going to continue with this particular weathercast, but we're going to start to talk about water levels, and I'll highlight those specifics coming up in terms of how much we're increasing, the rate of our increase. But needless to say, we are starting to see some water come up. Look at the stairway all the way down to the beach. starting to come over a little bit more. And that is the influence of this storm bringing in the waves, the elevated water levels from the Gulf as it eventually makes its landfall towards the state of Florida. So these are the stats. You're going to see it pop up in about maybe under 5 to 10 seconds. The very latest on the storm, the stats are, it is a Category 4. We do get a new update here momentarily, so we are a couple minutes away from that. Stats at 1:30, pressures at 948 millibars. As lower the pressure, the stronger the storm. But the one thing I don't want you to let your guard down is that even if the max winds come down, and they're not at 180 like it was 2 days ago, but the wind field expands and more people feel the influence of Milton. So as expected, right on cue, go wind shear. We love wind shear, and that's what's continuing to hurt this system. So thankfully, that went according to plan. We are no longer dealing with a Cat 5, and we could even see by this 4 o'clock update, they may downgrade it, all relative. It's still going to be a Cat 3. Potentially as we get those new updates in. So here is the very latest on Wink Live Doppler 3X as we have the bands of showers and storms rotating around the core. Let's take a look at our wobble tracker and see if it's right now staying on the path that it should, and maybe a slight deviation to the north, a little bit of a wobble. The white line is where it came from. The red line is where the National Hurricane Center expects it to go over the next few hours. And again, wobbles are very typical of especially powerful hurricanes. And you just have so much energy within the core of these storms that it can sometimes cause fluctuations, and a little bit of a wobble there. And I do expect that trend all the way towards its eventual landfall, which would likely be at this point either Sarasota County into Manatee County. And you can already see, folks, the thing about me is I'm an optimist. Let me show you that it has already technically cleared Lee County. So in terms of its parallel status to us, let me show you that it is now due west, of Charlotte County. It's cleared Collier, it's cleared Lee, and then now it has, let me show you the distance. It is due west about 70 miles of Port Charlotte in Charlotte County. Now, I don't want you to let your guard down. Yeah, we might miss, and we are expected to miss the core of the storm, the northern eye wall, but the southern eye wall is the surge. The southern half is the surge, and that will still happen from this storm. So we are still going to get the surge, even if the core of this storm works its way basically from Hillsborough County, Manatee County, and extending into Sarasota County. They likely have the highest wind threat, but ours is going to be especially the surge. The wind field has been expanding. It's almost been kind of going off the map here. You'll see it come up. Yeah, it's right. This is how the storm has been expanding. Very typical. The max winds are coming down. It's starting to expand in its coverage. It's about 310 miles wide in diameter. Slight update in the surge forecast. At least we're going in the right direction, but it's not low enough. Instead of 10 to 15 feet, National Hurricane Center has 9 to 13 feet. So slight adjustment there, but life-threatening storm surge expected still across Sarasota County. And then if you look locally for Charlotte County, and the one spot in Lee County with the 9 to 13 is Boca Grande. So 9 to 13, still 8 to 12 for Charlotte Harbor, Charlotte County. Again, take it seriously, please. 8 to 12 for Lee County, and then 5 to 8 for our friends in Collier County. You already saw the water levels starting to go up in Naples. Let's take a look at the current wind gusts that we have at the moment across Southwest Florida, as we are right now gusting to essentially tropical storm force levels. That makes sense. The hurricane force winds are offshore. We are seeing the extension of some of those winds into Southwest Florida at tropical storm levels. And right now we are gusting between about 30 to 50 miles an hour. Now, doesn't take much sometimes, even with these gusts between 30 and 50, to see some power outages. And even some of this is because of the earlier tornadoes. Worst tornado outbreak in a long time in Southwest Florida, at least in the past 2 years, if not longer. 16,000 people, if not 17,000, currently without power. And meteorologist Nikki Sheeks is continuing to update these numbers as they come in. Very preliminary peak wind gusts, 50 to 60 miles an hour, but we will be updating this list every single hour as they come in. So where do we go from here in terms of the wind? Happy to walk you through it. Let's do it. So this is going to be the future track model, the winds gusting as we go into time. Now, thankfully, these are not sustained. They're not sustained. The sustained winds are lower than what you see. But at times, we could see these gusts where the winds pick up and they could reach hurricane force. That's why I have a hurricane warning in effect. And you can see some occasional gusts by later on tonight. This is at 10 o'clock. There's a 74 in the Cape, 85 for Englewood, 85 in Northport. And then as we transition to about midnight and 1 a.m., as we're trying to get some sleep, some winds gusting in the 50s, 60s, 70s, and even spots into the 80s. The data source, by the way, is from the American model. This is the American model wind gusts as we go into time. As we continue to fast forward, here's a look at still some gusty conditions leading to the potential for power outages as we hit about 4 and 5 a.m. And this is also when we would see the surge event. Look at the wind coming right off of the Gulf. So any surge that we see overnight, even as we hit sunrise to noon, they're still going to be elevated because we have tropical storm force wind still pushing up the water. And then finally, as Milton starts to weaken and it moves away, you can see that the wind speeds do come down a bit. But here's the forecast as we go hour by hour, and this has a good handle on what's going to happen. And you can see the core of the storm, the eye wall, there's going to be the highest wind, but there's where you get the greatest surge. And as we zoom on in, here's our future track model as we go into time. There's a look at 6 o'clock all the way towards 7 and 8. It shows the likely area for the landfall within this vicinity of our state. Again, to reiterate, Sarasota, Manatee County, Hillsborough County within that corridor, but we get the surge. And that is going to be life-threatening. I hope the forecast doesn't verify. I'm rooting for it, but we need to prepare for the possibility as these bands of heavy rain and wind work their way through as it eventually makes its landfall up the coast. And then we see these lingering off and on showers across southwest Florida from Port Charlotte, Cape Coral, and extending towards Naples. And then as we go throughout your Thursday morning into the afternoon, mix of sun and clouds and overall breezy. So let's do another check of Wink Live Doppler 3X. So that way you know the situation at hand. I'll kind of give you a tour of what you're seeing outside of your door. And needless to say, we have a lot of active weather. And it looks like the radar, you see that skip, it missed a frame. So let me also, for the sake of clarity, I'll turn off some of the alerts that we have, the tornado warnings, as well as the heavy rain. Switch over to Wink Live Doppler 3X, and what we have is going to be bands of fast-moving rain and some squalls zooming on by areas of Charlotte County. Here's a time lapse, and look at how fast they are moving by. And when the rain picks up, that is where you could get those gusts of wind. Tropical storm force, according to what I've seen, and there's one about to approach Punta Gorda. We also have off and on bands of heavy rain for Deep Creek, Northport, as well as towards Rotunda, Boca Grande. Let's take you now into Lee County. Off and on bands, but compared to what we had earlier, this is not bad. But we are watching for the possibility of rotation. And I'm not seeing that right now in these cells. Here's also some more areas of heavy rain. There's also a pocket coming in towards Everglades City. Now that we're on it, let's take a look and see if we have any rotation. We do. Offshore, there it is. I'll point it out. And there's the possibility that the National Weather Service may issue a tornado warning with this one as it eventually starts to approach coastal Collier County. So there is a pocket of rotation right there offshore south of Collier County. As we go big picture, here's a look for the rest of southwest Florida, the current situation at hand. And most of the tornado warnings are trying to go more up the coast. And just what an absolute mess, right, of a situation from my old stomping grounds in Melbourne, born and raised, all the way towards Tampa, Orlando, as we continue to take you back to the core of this storm. So, Russ and Amanda, that is the very latest on my end. I'm going to continue to compile some more data, and I will be back with everybody momentarily with the very latest on Milton.
And we're all looking forward to that next update to see where this thing's going and what it's going to do.
Yeah, when you talk about that wind damage and the power outages associated with it, we know Governor DeSantis this afternoon said that there are 50,000 line workers staged and ready to go to restore power. But I know that that's a tough thing. We like our air conditioning and we want to keep the lights on, especially with this storm coming through in the middle of the night.
Yeah, and as you heard, we still have the storm surge to go. We're still going to have some wind gusts. So by far, we are not in the clear. We have many, many more hours to go. But the good news is we're going to be here with you all the way through it.
Yes. Right now, we want to go back out live to Wink News reporter Haley Zarconi, and she told us that she's starting to make her way inland, and she has moved locations. She is near the intersection of San Carlos Boulevard and Pine Ridge Road. So we know you're making your way back into town, Haley.
Yeah, that's right, Amanda. We definitely are. And I want to make a point of, I'm going to take a line out of my colleague Liz Byro's book. She talks about areas we should and shouldn't see flooding. Ooh, there's a gust. Right over here. This is an area we're expecting to see water pond up like this. That's what this is made for. That's exactly why this drainage is here. We're expecting to see that. What we don't want to see is water coming up on the roadways, and that's exactly what we were starting to see at our last live location near the Getaway Marina, so that's why we're here. I'm at the corner of San Carlos Boulevard and Pine Ridge Road, and we're starting to feel those gusts, as you can see on me. And right over here, you can see this sort of flag, per se, here has ripped. We're starting to see some of these stoplights wave. These gusts are strong. They're pushing water out into the roadways, and we came all the way over here because we didn't see as much water as we did over there. As we made our drive here from Getaway Marina, we were driving through some water. So definitely don't be out on the roadways. It's better to stay home because driving through water, Sylvie Sparks has said this as well, turn around, don't drown. You don't want to be driving through water. As you can see, LCSO is here. They've been here since we were here earlier today as well. So we're going to continue and check in, see how this area near Fort Myers Beach is holding up, and we'll bring that information to you as soon as we get it. I'm going to toss it back to you guys for now. In Lee County, Haley Zarconi, Wink News.
All right, thank you very much, Haley. And we know our coastal communities, Fort Myers Beach, but the coastal communities in Charlotte County have been bracing for impact, and hopefully everybody who was supposed to leave has done so.
Yeah, I just called up the Florida power outage map and kind of just going up the coast, and so far, it's not terrible. Collier County, only 455 people without power. Lee County, 8,000 people without power. Charlotte County, 4,000 people without power. Then it gets a little worse. You get up to Manatee County, there's over 8,000 people there. So far, things are kind of holding together. Of course, if you're the one without power, that's no good. But for the most part, most of the people seem to still have power.
Yeah, and if you do lose power, there still are options to connect with the Weather Authority and get our updates. If you have a battery-operated radio, you can do that on Wave. You can do that on Wink FM and on 92.5 radio. So we're simulcasting there, have been since 4 o'clock this morning.
There was an interview with the Charlotte County Sheriff at the Emergency Operations Center. So let's go ahead and play that. Listen to what he has to say.
All right, Sheriff, what's the plan of action right at this very moment?
Well, right now the plan of action is to prepare for post-storm. We've done everything we can pre-storm, so now it's how our response is going to be post-storm. So all your first responders that operate within Charlotte County, as well as those that are coming to aid us with our National Guard, FWC, we've all been meeting on a regular basis. We're putting our plan together. We're looking at the inundation maps, looking at where we think we need to focus. I guess fortunately, when Helene came through, we had a lot of flooded areas, so that was kind of a dry run for us. We know it's probably going to be threefold, so we know what areas we're really probably going to need to concentrate on. So we do have access stations throughout the county in different areas, so we're going to be ready to respond as soon as it is safe to do so. At first light, and as soon as it's safe to do so, we're going to have our air unit up to kind of do an overall view of the county to, again, feed the information back to us, so we're going to be able to assess and see how we're going to attack it. So we have a plan in place, but it has to be very fluid because this storm is going to dictate our response.
What are your main concerns for people in Charlotte County who haven't evacuated yet?
It's loss of life. I don't think some people are really taking this as serious as it is. I've seen some of the news feeds and some of the interviews that are out there, and people just don't think that we're going to get this surge. I really hope we don't. I pray to God we don't. But if they're right, this could be life-threatening.
And right now we're flirting with a couple hours, really, before we get those tropical storm-sustained winds. And then after that, your deputies are off the street, they're hunkering down, and also the shelter's closed. So kind of hone in on the message that if you're debating whether to move, you got to move now.
No, if you got to move immediately, right now, because there's not much more time left. The roads are getting dangerous. We're seeing the tornadoes sparking up everywhere. We are starting to see flooding in some areas just from the rain that's been coming through. So if you are going to move last minute, now is the time to do it. If you don't leave within the hour, then you're going to have to hunker down and pray.
So for the people, unfortunately, that probably didn't evacuate, they're going to be calling 911. What happens after that when you start getting those phone calls for I need help, but you guys can't leave yet?
Well, if it's unsafe for my staff and fire EMS staff for them to respond, we're not responding. I'm not putting my people's life in danger because you made a poor choice. I'm just not going to do it. Now, as soon as it's safe afterwards, we will be responding to those 911 calls. We will be going out into those inundated neighborhoods, and we will be checking door to door to make sure people are okay and get them to safety. But during the storm, when it's unsafe, we are not coming out. I'm not putting my people's lives at risk. And I do know that there are other people that have stayed on our barrier islands. There's people that have stayed down on Minnesota Beach. That is foolish. And we're watching those areas very closely.
What are your talks about plans for your mission after the storm dies down?
Well, like I said, after the storm, we got our search and rescue, and that's what we've been planning on every day. We're more and more assets have been kind of arriving or staged around the area. So we're developing our plan and where we're going to hit, how we're going to hit, and putting our search and rescue teams together.
When do you know if, USAR from Miami is going to come up here? When is that decision made?
Well, we've made the request for that. Actually, the fire chief had made that request for that. And from what I understand, they are going to make it up here. I'm just not sure when. I think they should be here around Friday.
Okay. Anything else you want to add or include, just a message for people in Charlotte County?
I just want to tell people that if you're still here, you have very limited opportunity. You need to leave. You need to take this seriously. Hopefully we won't get as hard hit as everybody, but the way it's looking right now, it's ground zero. I've told people for years, after Charlie, after Ian, we were actually lucky because it was a wind event. Although the wind was deadly enough and destructive enough, we didn't deal with the water. We are dealing with the water now, and you're going to have a mass wall of water coming at you, and there's no stopping it.
Sheriff, I heard that you went out yourself and did some rescuing after Helene. Are you planning on doing that?
If the need arises, I will be out there. I was out in my vehicle, and I heard one of my deputies calling for help because there were people trapped in their homes. So I responded, and that's what I do. I'm law enforcement first. So if somebody needs help, I'm in the area. My people need help. I'm going to go.
You love this place.
Yes, I do. This has been my home for well over 30 years. Raised my kids here. Now my grandkids are being raised here. So this community means something to me.
How are you doing?
I'm holding in there. So I got a lot of good people who got my back, so I'm good.
We'll get through it.
Yeah, we do. We always will. So everyone just got to remember, we stay strong, stay safe, and we don't quit.
Thank you, Sharon.
You've been listening to Sheriff Bill Promell, and you could just hear it in his tone, how upset he was, knowing that there are some people who have decided to stay. You remember yesterday, Russ, on our air, he told people, if you decide to stay, write your name and marker on your arm so that we can identify you. I mean, absolutely. And so, that was his tone yesterday, trying to warn people. I think he was really hoping that Helene kind of woke some people up and made them leave, but sadly, we're hearing about some folks who've decided to stay.
And the track has been going kind of right there at the Charlotte County, Sarasota County line. Maybe it's going a little bit farther north, and that would be good for Charlotte County. So let's hope. But yeah, it is a dangerous situation. And that interview was some time ago that we did that with him, where he was talking about the possibility of going someplace else. It is getting to the point where, quite frankly, it may be too late to go do that.
Yeah, I think so. so. And as Matt has been saying, south of the eye, that's going to be the water event. And so we're talking about, surge for Charlotte County. Right now, we want to go back out live to Wink News reporter Zoe Warner. She is in a mobile home park north on the trail, north of the Shell Factory in Suncoast. Zoe, who do you have with you there, and tell us what's been going on?
Hey guys, that's right. I'm here in North Fort Myers at Lake Fairways, and I'm actually here with Matt right now, who was directly impacted by whatever just happened. And Matt, kind of walk me through what happened, and let's just take a look at what his home looks like right now.
Well, you're looking at the living room, and that's where we were watching the news when it happened. The weatherman actually said to take cover, and about 10 seconds later, the tornado ripped the roof off of the house. Rafters were falling on us. I covered up my mother and the dog, and not 20 seconds later, it was gone, and so was the house.
Yeah. How are you feeling? Are you okay? Are you injured or at all?
No, not injured. Somehow, some way, we're both okay.
Okay.
But I'm not sure how to feel right now.
Yeah. This is your home, your livelihood. Let's walk a little bit over to the front. The wind is starting to pick up a little bit, but I just want to show you guys the complete damage that has been done to this home. Again, we are here in North Fort Myers at Lake Fairways, and this whole neighborhood is just completely has so much damage, and it's just pretty much destroyed at this point. Matt, talk to me about this point. Were you on this side? Did you feel the weather coming? Did you feel the wind coming at all?
It was immediate.
Yeah.
We heard it, and then the roof was coming off, and then once we were exposed, you felt it.
Yeah. And you say you had been watching the news all morning, just kind of waiting, and then you heard the tornado warning come, right. And then out of nowhere it just came.
Yes.
Yeah. And so now I see you've been out here with your buddy trying to clear everything up. What are you trying to salvage at this point?
We got all the important documents out and some family photos.
Yeah.
At this point, I'm looking for anything that might be important to my mother. Got a couple valuables out of the house. So.
Yeah.
Next, probably just try to get some clothes out of the house and call it a day.
Yeah. And so let's walk over here a little bit to the front too. Where are you guys planning to go at this point?
Luckily, we have great neighbors in this park. It's a great community, and we're planning on staying with some neighbors.
Okay. And so they live close to here.
Yes.
Are you concerned at all for the hurricane that's coming and that it might impact your neighbor's home as well?
No, these homes withstood Ian, but a tornado it destroyed the house.
Yeah.
I don't think the winds from the hurricane will be as bad as what we just experienced.
Yeah. And so talk to me, some neighbors on the other side who have just gone through the same thing said it felt like a boom or a train at some point too. What did it feel like you guys were going through that?
It all happened pretty quickly. It's hard to describe, but it just came out of nowhere.
Yeah, obviously Matt is pretty speechless at this point as the whole neighborhood kind of looks like this. It's destroyed. There's debris everywhere. Homes are bricked apart. Windows are broken. Everything is just kind of laying out on the streets. And it was not like this a few hours ago. And obviously they're still trying to recruit, still trying to, get their bearings together. And we're going to be walking around. We have been walking around pretty much all this morning and this afternoon, but we'll make sure to keep you guys updated more with the latest. Live here in North Fort Myers, Zoe Warner, Wink News.
Hey, Zoe, before you go, can we ask him real quick about his mother? Where is she? And I think he said that she was all right, but where is she at right now?
Yeah, Matt. They want to talk to you a little bit about your mom. Where is she at right now, and how is she doing?
She's safe. She got dry, and I think she got a hot shower. She's over at the neighbor's house right now.
Yeah, good. And his mom was actually the one that came up to us. We were kind of driving around in the neighborhood just trying to figure out what was going on and assess the damage. And his mom came up and said, "My son saved my life." And so, Matt, obviously, how does that feel when your mom says that, being able to save her in such a disastrous moment like this?
She was top priority. As soon as the roof ripped off, it's just something you got to do.
Yeah. Save your family, for sure. Well, thank you so much, man.
No doubt.
I know I can't even begin to comprehend what you guys are going through, but we wish you the most safety with the hurricane coming up as well. And we'll make sure to keep you guys updated back at the station with anything that comes up. So live here in North Fort Myers. Back to you guys.
Zoe, thanks. You know, they're so unfortunate in a way, but also so very fortunate that they're okay.
Yeah, that they escaped with their lives, but I just feel for him. I mean, we are talking to Matt at the worst moment in his life when he is standing in front of his home and he's watching everything he owns in this world just destroyed around
20
him.
seconds later, it was gone, it was over, and the house didn't look like that.
Yeah, and I just talked to a woman, too, who's near Page Field, said the same thing. As soon as Matt and Zach were talking about it in Jamaica Bay, they had a 4-minute warning. It had reached them where they are by Page Field near the villas. And so that's what we're hearing over and over with the tornadic activity from earlier this afternoon.
There were, what, 9 tornado warnings?
Yes, all at one time.
And that kind of as that one band came through, and it was very, very difficult for so many people.
Yeah, so it sounds like Matt and his mom are going to ride out the rest of what Milton has for us at a neighbor's, not going to a shelter, but still staying in that neighborhood. And we hope that the neighborhood, fares well. But I think the email that came in said 20 RV homes overturned, power lines snapped all around there. So we hope that everybody stays safe.
Considerable damage there.
Yeah.
All right, let's shift down now to Collier County.
Yeah, Wink News reporter Olivia Jean has the latest now from Naples Beach.
I'm on Naples Beach where the conditions right now, it's really just the wind. There is no rain, but I do want to show you some of the water, right? Look at those waves and you'll notice that there's no more Naples Beach. The water has come all the way up. I mean, even to my feet, all the way onto the parking lot. And then I want to take you this way, actually, and I want to show you something. You see the pooling at the end of the road? That's Gulf Shore Boulevard South. This is an area that tends to flood with storm surge and even just those typical rainstorms. So we're going to make sure we keep a good eye on that. But we're going to keep you updated all throughout the day today. As you can see, it just started raining. I will keep bringing you guys the updates. In Collier County at Naples Beach, Olivia Jean, Wink News.
All right, Olivia, thanks. So you see some of the water coming up there. The Gulf just looks kind of ferocious out there right now.
Yeah, it does. It looks angry, certainly.
All right, I want to get to Wink News anchor Liz Byro. She joins us now live in downtown Fort Myers, right off the Edison Bridge. How are things looking there? Clearly, there's a lot of wind.
I believe my call just dropped with you all, so I'm going to check really quick. Give me 1 second. Okay, if I'm on with y'all right now, we are right in front of the Edison Bridge. It's this one right here. This is what I wanted to show you in downtown Fort Myers. Look at this fence, completely knocked down. Now, this is what was holding it up. These sandbags right here. We have rocks right here. It is gusty here in downtown Fort Myers. When I came off the Edison Bridge, again, that's where I'm at. We're outside of Edison Grand right now. I mean, this caught my eye immediately. This entire fence just pulled down. You can see the water level is rising here outside of the marina. We're actually going to go check on City Tavern right now and other areas in downtown that have put up precautions. They've put up storm barriers, water barriers in downtown Fort Myers. I'm going to toss it all back to you all right now.
Liz, thanks. Yeah, the temporary fence there knocked over, and
you can hear the wind. You can barely hear
coming.
Liz, trying to talk over it right now.
Tell if she was on the air or not, but good job there, and keep us informed on downtown Fort Myers. All right, I also want to show you some roads that you need to avoid because there's some problems out there. Some of them getting high water and so forth. Inlet Drive, Stipe Street East from Moody to Seaworthy Road at Moody and Road Belmar Boulevard at Jade Court, North Tamiami at East North Shore. This is from the Lee County Sheriff's Office giving us this information saying that these are some of the roads you're going to want to avoid because there's some high water out there.
Of course, you should be avoiding all the roads right now. So many places in our viewing area, put in those curfews that started at 4 o'clock this afternoon. So people should be staying inside right now and riding it out. Let the emergency vehicles and all of the storm response teams use the roads right now and keep the rest of us off of them. A view of the damage near the Bell Tower from earlier earlier today. This is the Villas neighborhood, South Fort Myers. The South Trail Fire put these out. This was right around 3:20, but oh my goodness, you can see an RV toppled over onto some of those vehicles there. I was telling you that I was talking to the woman who is near Page Field. She was saying a garage door was blown off and that her neighbor's front door was ripped off of its hinges. And we have some security footage from her home that we hope to turn around and show you of when those winds went through earlier this afternoon.
Yeah, and again, some of that could be straight line winds. Some of it could be a tornadic event that had taken place. Of course, the Weather Service will ultimately determine all of that in the days to come. Meantime, I want to go to some video that was taken at Jefferson and La Palma Street in Fort Myers. This came into the newsroom right around 3:30 this afternoon. People say it sounded like the freight train in the neighborhood. Tree limbs down, fences down, debris everywhere. Again, don't know if that was an actual tornado or just really heavy straight line winds. That will all be looked at by the National Weather Service. Then they'll give us the final determination on that.
All right, for our next piece of video, let's go farther south, Marco Island, and take a look at the waves crashing up on the rocks here. This was taken by Wink News viewer Kevin Olsak. Came into the newsroom right around 3 o'clock today, but we talked about how angry and ferocious the water looked off of Naples, and you can see it crashing up in Marco Island as well.
I want to take a look at this. This is Matt Lachey by Matt Lachey Park. This was around 3:20, and you can see in this video what appears to be the funnel cloud, possible tornado there touching the ground. There were so many tornado warnings earlier today, and you can see some of the damage that is out there already that this storm has brought.
Yeah, when you talk about earlier this afternoon, in virtually every live shot that we went to with our reporters, you could hear the warnings. All of our phones were going off while we were on the air at the same time. So, you know, it really was quite a couple of hours there as far as the tornadic activity is concerned.
And that's some of the stuff that you're going to want to be careful of tomorrow. Those tree limbs that are out there.
The down power lines, certainly.
Lines, and some places, you know, the road may get washed away as well, and some little potholes may become really big potholes. So be very, very careful, not only after the storm hits, but for the next several days.
That's true. And if you find yourself taking a different route than you normally would, and you don't know the area very well, it's hard to tell the difference between a flooded road and right where the drop-off is into a creek or some of these other canals or culverts when you don't know the area.
We're going to take a quick break. We'll be back with more. You're watching Wink News, the Weather Authority.
Goodwill is just going to help line the pockets of the CEO.
You do know that Goodwill is a nonprofit, right? Nearly 90% of revenue generated in their stores goes to fund Goodwill's programs and services. Not a lot of people know this. Goodwill stores help provide jobs for people who have barriers to employment and helps fund free life-changing programs for Kentuckians in need.
I think I've got some stuff we can donate.
Looking for a reason to try the new $5 meal deal at McDonald's? Here's 1, 2, 3, 4, and the price makes 5. That's everything you get with the new $5 meal deal at McDonald's.
President Trump is leading the fight to empower parents and students.
We will give all parents the right to choose another school for their children if they want, called school choice.
President Trump is right. Kentucky parents deserve a voice in what their children learn and a choice in where they go to school. Give Kentucky students the education they deserve. Vote yes on Amendment 2. Trump supports school choice, so should you.
You're watching continuing coverage from Wink News, the Weather Authority on Hurricane Milton.
Yeah, we have reporters spread out across Southwest Florida, and we also have multiple places where we can broadcast from. So if you're just tuning in, you may notice the backdrop looks a little different. We have an office here in Gateway that we're now broadcasting from as well. Matt is still in downtown Fort Myers. We're going to be able to do that. So just in case one of them goes down, we'll have another option where we can continue to give you the very latest information. And we're going to be with you every step of the way.
Right now, we want to go back out live to Wink News anchor Liz Byro, who's still in downtown Fort Myers, but she's in another location. Liz, tell us about where you are now and what you're seeing.
Yeah, Amanda, another location more protected from that wind between these buildings. But right now I'm in front of where the new location of Bruno's of Brooklyn will be. And I want to show you some of the precautions that are in place in downtown Fort Myers. This one, a special one. This is called the, let me reread this name right here, actually. This is the Tiger Drain Dam System. This is a replacement or in lieu of sandbags. You do see some behind here, but this thing's actually full of water. It's designed to protect these buildings, this infrastructure from any kind of water or wave action. You can see these are actually bolted into the ground. This is a very unique system that we see in downtown Fort Myers. We also see other areas where we're looking at the typical precautions for storms. Sorry there, stay safe. Sandbags in front of Ford's garage with all kinds of plastic tape to protect the windows. We're going to keep on moving around here. There's sandbags in front of Starbucks if you want to zoom in over there. The streets are cleared except for this gentleman over on a scooter. Hope he stays safe. We're looking at all these pottery. I mean, these are taped, saran wrapped to the trees. This is how we're keeping downtown Fort Myers safe. I just wanted to show you those systems because it is unique looking at a drainage system like that. But here in downtown Fort Myers, we're not feeling any rain right now. We had some gusts over by the Caloosahatchee. I'm going to send it on back to you all.
We obviously know what happened after Ian and how much downtown flooded. And Bruno's of Brooklyn, that's their new location. And I just looked, their grand opening for that is set for Tuesday, October 22nd. So just a couple weeks away. They really would like to not have any damage there or flooding that they would have to clean up as they continue to get that location ready.
I know they've worked so hard on that newer, much larger location. And so we wish the best for them. Interesting, though, I have seen that barrier, that protection that they're using, I believe I've seen that over on the East Coast where they get the king tides, and hopefully works well there and hopefully will work well here in this situation.
Because we could see a little bit more storm surge, a significant amount of storm surge later tonight, so we'll see how that goes. Speaking of all that, let's turn things over to Wink News Chief Meteorologist Matt Devitt as he gives us the very latest. Matt.
And that's right. And by the way, for some, if you guys are wondering, I am in downtown Fort Myers, but I'm currently on the first floor where you can't see this, but I have a green screen. We also have on the second floor of Wink, well above, another green screen just in case if the water levels go into the building. So we have contingencies. We also are in Gateway. Let's get to the very latest. And we have started the surge event. The water levels are going up as expected. And what I have done is we have created a network here that will give you in real time, only on Wink here, rising levels for multiple sensors that we have across Southwest Florida. Okay, so these are the sensors that we have available to us. This is a combination of river levels, look at the Peace River, but also the combination of Charlotte Harbor all the way into areas of Lee County. And that's where I'm going to take you now, where let's go into Lee County. And every single spot is rising. And then you can also see some of the levels that are currently happening. And that does include, let me give you the current surge levels that we have. And I'm looking at the data right now. So the current surge that we have in the city of Fort Myers is at 2.5 feet. So we have a surge in downtown Fort Myers, and that's one of the tide sensors that we have in Lee County, that is producing water levels that are about 1 to 1.25 feet above the average high tide. That's a very important number. It basically tells you inundation. So that will be going up over the next couple of hours, and that's a good number as to how much inundation we are currently experiencing. We also have a great network just recently put in, and this was from the Lee County Public Safety Division. They have teamed up with a local network that has tried to put in more tide sensors, and they're all going up. So they are going up right now in their water levels. And then let me take you into Collier County. Now, this level was updated, I'd say about a half hour ago. Let me get you the very latest on Naples, how we're doing. And Naples right now is rapidly going up. So since this was updated about 30 minutes ago, now we're at 2.1 feet above the higher high tide, kind of the average high tide. Oftentimes that's a good inundation number. Right now, minor flooding is occurring across Naples near that sensor. We also have water levels rising for Marco Island and Everglades City. So we're going to continue to get you these updates with the water levels. And here's the situation, and why we have this happening is we have the core of the storm, and the wind around it is pushing up the water. And you can see the eye as well as the eye wall. Now that part avoids Southwest Florida. It is already, let me zoom on in, it is already parallel to Charlotte County and offshore. So, it's going to continue to head to the northeast, and it will avoid the core of it, Naples, as well as Cape Coral, Port Charlotte, to name a few, but we have to deal with the surge. We have to deal with the surge on the southern side, and that's why we've really been trying to drive that home, because of that threat. The tornado potential still exists across our area. However, there are, my goodness, look at the new updates. Multiple tornadoes on the ground right now along the Florida East Coast, Fort Pierce, all the way towards, looks like Sebastian Inlet. And let me analyze the core of this storm with our local radars. And I'm seeing colors I haven't seen in a long time. And I won't say the name of that hurricane 2 years ago, but let's analyze that. Normally, you see a white or that type of indication. That is an incredibly high velocity. And let's all kind of look at this together. 144 miles an hour, 143 right now in the northwestern quadrant of this storm. Now, it's offshore, it's in the Gulf, and this is what we avoid, thank goodness, in Southwest Florida. But our luck is somebody else's misfortune, and this is going to be working its way, granted as it's weakening a bit, but it will be heading towards Tampa Bay and Longboat Key, and they're going to be dealing with that type of wind. Right now, aloft inside of the storm, it is being picked up in the northern eye wall of 144 miles an hour, and that is a pretty potent part of the storm. So let's do once again kind of a tour across our area. And I'll show you these bands of rain rotating around the storm. Not seeing much in the way of rotation. If anything changes, I'll let you know. But the area in green, that is a flash flood warning. And that means that significant rainfall has occurred and flash flooding is right now in progress. Let's take you into DeSoto County, more areas of heavy rain. Port Charlotte, as well as Punta Gorda, we have bands coming in from the south. And what's kind of interesting here, and this is very unconventional, you're going to hear me over the next couple of hours getting extremely specific when I talk about radar. That's because not everybody can see the TV, as they will be listening because they've lost power. They're going to be listening on radio. So you're going to notice over the next few hours I have to adapt to that. I'm going to be extremely descriptive in where rain is, because if I say, hey, look at this rain, they can't see it. So that is going to be one of the adjustments you'll probably hear from me over the next couple of hours. Here's a look at some of these bands, one after another. This band from Cape Coral to Iona, Fort Myers Beach, pushing to the north at about 30 and 40 miles an hour. Also areas of heavy rain for Lehigh Acres off and on towards Immokalee as well as Ave Maria. The wind field continues to grow with this storm in diameter. It is about 310 miles wide. The yellow, that is more likely where we are seeing the tropical storm force gusts. And you saw on radar some of the wind analyzed in the core, the red, the hurricane force wind. That is still off the coast, but eventually that will be working its way to the northeast. Here is that forecast and the cone as it will continue to make its approach towards the state of Florida. And there is going to be where the landfall is expected later tonight and all the way into tomorrow morning. But It's going to be a rough go of it, no doubt about it, and we will see some power outages. Here is the storm surge outlook. There was a small tweak, but still life-threatening. 10 to 15 has gone to 9 to 13 in the pink, the magenta. 8 to 12 for Charlotte Harbor and all the way toward Lee County. And I have a complete network of water sensors all across the area to a certain degree. And whenever I know of an update that's incredibly important, you guys will know of that update. So as soon as they come in, I'll let you know. 8 to 12 in red, 5 to 8 for Collier County. If you're wondering about the tornado potential, that will be lowering as we go into time. Now, it's still elevated as we go throughout the afternoon and all the way into the evening. Goes down a bit, but still watching that at 9 o'clock towards midnight, and then really dropping off as we hit, especially the start of tomorrow. Live wind gusts, Sanibel's at 59, 50 for Englewood, 59 in the Cape, 55 in Fort Myers. The winds are starting to increase as the wind field expands with this storm. Now, we want to keep all this pink. That's the hurricane force wind well away from us. But like I said, it's going to be an issue for others, especially as we go up the coast. Just got an update. Thanks so much, Nikki Sheeks, on the power outages. And it looks like it's gone up 8,000. We have an increase of 8,000 across Southwest Florida. We are at 12 to 13 grand across Lee County, 4 grand in Charlotte, 1,400 for Sarasota County, and 461 across Collier County. Here's a look at the wind gust forecast as we go into time. And right now we're in the 40s and 50s, but we will likely maximize in our wind gust potential by later this evening and overnight. And you can see some of those hurricane force gusts in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, mainly 70s and 80s for Punta Gorda, Port Charlotte, as well as Northport. This data is from the America model, if you're curious at home, showing at least that possibility. We hope we don't reach those levels, but can't rule it out. And that will lead to some power outages across the area. Here's a look at about 1 and 2 a.m. as we're trying to get some sleep. I know it'll be a little noisy outside. And then as we work our way towards 4 and 5, still seeing some occasional tropical storm force gusts, and then finally the storm starts to move away. It will be weakening and becoming what we call extratropical. Sandy did kind of the same thing in 2012, became a hybrid storm, and we're getting into October, so that type of thing can happen as it moves away from the state of Florida. If you're curious about high tide and low tide, let's take a look as we will see. I'll get out of the way, that way you can see the information. As we have the low tide and the high tide plotted on this graphic, the layer behind it is just that worst possible case scenario of inundation. 9 times out of 10, it won't reach absolutely these levels. A good amount of it will verify, but what's behind it is the absolute worst case scenario. Charlotte Harbor, 3:30, high tide about 7:15 a.m. Here's a look across areas of Lee County from Fort Myers, Cape Coral, Fort Myers Beach, all the way towards Sanibel and Captiva. And like I said, folks, I'm not going anywhere. I am going to be with you for the afternoon, the evening, tomorrow morning. I'll sleep this weekend. I'm going to be with you. There are going to be no surprises that you won't know about. Captiva, Sanibel, and all the way towards Naples, as we will see that low tide and high tide all the way towards Marco Island and Everglades City. Right now, we are going to start to approach Everglades City, that high tide this evening, and then we see the high tide Naples at 7:20. So just a heads up, time now is 4:40, where we will see those water levels really start to go up in Naples as we approach the 7:20 to 7:30 time frame. So when I come back, we're gonna talk about water levels, and this is super important. And what I'm gonna do is show you the live sensors that we look at, how to read that, and you can even join me at home. I'll show you how to get to this website, and that way we can constantly monitor the water levels. We'll talk about how to read it, how to analyze the storm surge, and we'll watch that in real time. But for right now, I'm gonna toss it back to Amanda and Russ at the studio.
All right, yeah, we know everybody is laser focused in. They're going to want to pull up that information themselves. A lot of people who aren't normally night owls, we know are going to be sticking with us. So long as the power is still on, they're going to be watching all night long.
Yeah, so far the power's held up, but we'll see as time goes on what happens. Still a lot more gusts to go, and then there's the storm surge. High tide is still yet to come. So it's going to be a while, but right now we're doing pretty good.
Yeah, we are. We mentioned that we're broadcasting right now. Russ and I are out of our Gateway studios. And in the last few minutes, our crews who were on Englewood Beach covering Manasota Key for us, they have come here to stage and be ready to go to look for the aftermath after the storm passes. So right now we're utilizing some of our cameras that are stationed around until those go offline, until they're knocked out. That's how we're going to be seeing some of the conditions out there.
Yeah, so let's take a look at Englewood because it has really picked up out there with the waves and so forth. You can just see that wave action in the Gulf from that live camera there. And you can see how far that the waves are coming inland too. Usually there's a decent amount of beach out there, but right now that water is just coming all the way on up to the vegetation.
Yeah, the trees are a good indication of how the wind is whipping as well. Let's take you to another live camera that we have on Fort Myers Beach and look at the Diamond Head Resort. We had crews that were here during Helene and rode out the storm there at the Diamond Head. And yeah, you can see all that water already there.
Yeah, there is still some beach there, so that's good. We have seen some reports that the water is starting to come up some, but right now it is not encroaching on the property, at least at this point, so that's a good sign.
Want to go now to Wink News reporter Amy Osher, and Amy has, you know, the unique vantage point of being in the same spot that she was, I believe, during Ian, so can kind of give us a compare and contrast of what she's seeing there in downtown Fort Myers.
That's right, Amanda. It's quite a bit different this time around. We had a lot of wind gusts. We're having some right now, but nothing like we saw in Ian. We're waiting for the storm surge, though. I know it's going to be highest around midnight, but I've been keeping an eye on the water. We haven't had any broaches over the seawall and that berm there yet. But if you look at that boat in the distance, it's a remnant, a reminder of Ian when all the other boats spilled over the sidewalks. That one remained, has not been removed yet. But when we first came to you, the water was a lot lower on it. So we're already able to see the storm surge, the tides coming up a little bit. And we're going to keep coming back to that to give you a vantage point when you see how high that boat is sitting. There's another boat here. It's the only other one in the area. And you see they put some hurricane lines on it. And I don't know if that's going to be enough line, to be honest. What you'll notice is a lot of people who have boats leave a really long line. So if the water comes up 12 feet, they have 20 feet of line, and it enables it to stay upright. I don't know if they have enough there, if we're getting 12 to 15 feet, but we'll watch that throughout the evening as well. Otherwise, it's pretty dry here. We don't have any water in the parking lot here. Again, you mentioned Ian. During Ian, I watched as cars floated around this parking lot. That came well after the storm passed, and that's what I guess we're afraid here too, is even though the eye of the hurricane is offshore past us, it's that storm surge that we're waiting to watch for you as well. Tiffany Rizzo and I are here, so we'll both be here all night watching the water come up. Last time it came up on 4th Street, so we have a lot of areas that we're tracking for you now, and we'll be here with you all night. Back to you.
All right, Amy, thanks. You know, people also learn lessons from Ian. You see there's not cars there in that parking lot because last time they did float. So, yeah, that people are learning and adjusting as time goes on.
Yeah, here's some video of a car unfortunately crushed by a tree near Bell Tower, but we did get shout-outs from quite a few of our Wink News viewers in this area who said thank you so much for letting us know that it was time to get to our safe spot in the house, to get into the center of our homes, and they were given that warning and could hunker down as that tornado went through right around 4 p.m. I don't know if this was taken around 4. I think 4 o'clock is when we got this video in, because I think it was earlier than that.
Yeah, if I got out at that point when it was safe to do so. But yeah, you don't want to get out when it's not safe to do so to take those pictures. So just wait till it is okay. All right, I want to go now to some trees down on power lines in villas. This is the villas near Fordham Street, near Bell Tower earlier today. And you can see those trees just stretching those lines. So far, it kind of looks like those lines are holding up, but you wonder if throughout the rest of the gust that may come, if that will continue to be the case. But right now,
that tree's already on it and pulling and just hanging. Yeah, we've gotten quite a few reports from right around that area, from the villas and some of the neighborhoods around Page Field. Want to go to some video from Ashley Mann. Thank you so much for sending this in. And she says that this was around 12:40 this afternoon when Matt was warning of a tornado moving through at the time. She says that they got hit by what seemed like a tornado. They are on Garden Boulevard in Cape Coral. But this is a great way to share your footage safely, is to send in the security camera footage before, especially, they'll turn in black and white and night vision after the sun goes down. But right now we're getting some really good views and getting an idea of what this storm was capable of when those first outer bands came through.
You can just see that wind whipping through there, possibly, a tornado there. Just play it again. Let's just let this breathe a little bit, because you can really see there was a little bit of debris also that flew around there. Fortunately, it looks like that car is going to be okay, but you got about 20 seconds here where things are pretty intense. There's the debris, there's some tree limbs, maybe some leaves also blowing around, and then just a moment or two later, and it's almost all gone. And
that's the exhale, right? When you're going through that.
Yeah.
We have some damage at Village of Entrada off of Del Prado, so stay in the Cape here. This was from around 3:30 today. Wink News viewers sent this in, and it looks like, did they lose the pool cage, or is that the door to maybe the screen, the lanai?
Pool cage gone.
Okay, their pool cage is gone. Hate to see that.
Yeah, that hurts. All right, well, we're going to continue to watch it for you. We're going to have the very latest weather-wise coming up in just a few minutes as well. You are watching Wink News, the Weather Authority. We'll be back with more as we continue to track Milton.
Goodwill is just going to help line the pockets of the CEO.
You do know that Goodwill is a nonprofit, right? Nearly 90% of revenue generated in their stores goes to fund Goodwill's programs and services. Not a lot of people know this. Goodwill stores help provide jobs for people who have barriers to employment and helps fund free, life-changing programs for Kentuckians in need.
I think I've got some stuff we can donate.
Looking for a reason to try the new $5 meal deal at McDonald's? Here's 1, 2, 3, 4, and the price makes 5.
So much.
That's everything you get with the new $5 meal deal at McDonald's.
At U-Haul, we know every family moves at their own pace.
Is that heavy?
That's why we have U-Box.
Take that to the kitchen for me, okay?
We can store it
Excited about the new house?
or ship it,
Who's gonna get the biggest room?
how and when you want
I bet
it.
you are. That's
Reserve today at uhaul.com.
She crab soup is a very important dish to Charleston. When you taste the she crab, you taste bits of history, but you also taste what Charleston is. You taste that ocean, you taste that salt, you taste that sweet. It's what makes them so special.
We're happy to announce another new partnership in our growing Battleground community. You can now stream Battleground on Zeem, the go-to source for live local TV. Visit Zeem.com for more details. With our laser focus on local reporting, Zeem is a perfect match for our mission.
President Trump is leading the fight to empower parents and students.
We will give all parents the right to choose another school for their children if they want, called school choice.
President Trump is right. Kentucky parents deserve a voice in what their children learn and a choice in where they go to school. Give Kentucky students the education they deserve. Vote yes on Amendment 2. Trump supports school choice, so should you.
Welcome back in, everybody. We want to thank you, our viewers. So many of you have safely been able to get footage to show us some of the damage that you're seeing, sending us some of your home security footage to show us what the conditions have been like for you during this storm. Of course, our reporters are fanned out across the area, giving us several vantage points as well. And our meteorologists.
We've seen video of a large tornado on the ground. We've also seen homes that have been damaged. We've seen power lines that are down. We've seen the trees are laying on power lines. There is considerable amount of damage out there already, and we still have a long way to go. Let's send things over to Nikki Sheeks, meteorologist. He's watching some of the live cameras. Nikki, what are you seeing out there?
Yeah, I just want to take you into what we're actually seeing on some of our cameras, just because I know everybody's hunkered down. We want to make sure that everybody's inside. And if you want to get a view of what's actually going on, here's a look. We're going to start with Charlotte County to try to get a look at what we're currently seeing. And here we have a couple of really great cameras. This is I-75 mile marker 176. Unfortunately, there are still some people out on those roads. Don't recommend getting on those roads as it's slick. We're seeing ponding and we have some dangerous conditions out there, but take a look at how the camera is rocking because of those winds. So let's just continue to look at some of these cameras across the region. Here we're going to stick along I-75. Here's a look at mile marker 174. Some raindrops on the cameras there. And as we continue to push to the south along the Peace River Bridge, luckily nobody on the roads here. Again, the camera just whipping because of the winds. You could see the trees in the background actually whipping as well because of those strong winds and gusts that are currently pushing through. And to actually take the camera away, you could see where that rainfall is coming in. So not the heaviest of rainfall right now along I-75, but the issue are those stronger winds and gusts associated with Milton that's currently moving through. So just going to continue to move south through these cameras. Here's a look, I-75 at Tucker's Grade. No rainfall at the moment, just those eerie gray skies. Let's take a look even further to the south along 75. I-75 mile marker 172, a raindrop on the camera there. Now we're going to push into Lee County. So here's a live look we're going to take right here. Sanibel, Siesta on the beach. You could see that water already rushing towards the coastline as we're beginning to get more of that onshore flow taking place. So over the next couple of hours, we will begin to see those water levels rise. As Matt was talking about earlier, we're going to be monitoring very closely all of those water levels. So you could see just how dangerous those conditions are out there at Sanibel. Again, this is Siesta on the beach. Now let's get a look over here in Cape Coral, Rubicon. Look at those winds whipping the trees out there. The water, you could see the raindrops coming down. Not the heaviest of rainfall at the moment through that area. As you could see how our radar is lopped on top of this camera map. You could see that most of the rainfall is really along 75 at the moment, but lighter showers right now. Let's get more of a look at some of our island communities. Here's a look. Wow, Fort Myers Beach at Diamond Head. That water, again, rushing towards the coast. You could see some flooding already. Look at those trees blowing. Very nasty looking out there right now. Let's just continue to track further to the south to get a good view of what everybody's seeing here. Here's a look over Bonita Springs, gray skies, kind of hard to see out there. This is the Bonita Springs fire station, number 22. Gray skies, some water droplets on the cameras here. You could see those trees whipping as well. And we're gonna just sink further south into Collier County, try to give you guys a look at what is going on there. Okay, this is coastal Collier County. Not seeing too much rainfall right now, but we should have some good shots of the water levels and some of the wind. Here's a look, Vanderbilt Beach. You could see that water level beginning to rise. The trees whipping in the wind, no surprises there. Okay, checking in on Pelican Bay. This is a rotating camera. Look at that water rushing onshore. Very nasty looking out there right now. This is why we have those evacuations in place for those coastal and island communities, because we're already seeing that water rush and rise towards the coastline, and we're not even seeing that peak storm surge just yet. give you a few more shots before I send it back to the anchors. Here's a look from Belmead. Gray skies, raindrops on the camera, not too much in the way of wind just there. And then we're just gonna take a few more looks out. Okay, here's a look at Marco Island. You can see that water again beginning to rush further inland. Nasty looking out there. This is why, again, those evacuation orders were in place, because we're still not seeing the peak of that storm surge. We're just beginning to see that water push its way towards the coastline. So we'll keep checking in with all of these cameras. You guys have been sending in some great pictures and videos, giving us an idea of what's happening in each and every neighborhood. So I'll send it back to the anchors.
And thanks so much, Nikki. I appreciate it. I'm going to take it over from here. Hey, let's go to full with that shot. If you are wondering at home where you can find the tide sensors. Hey, so right now I'm at the computer that you're seeing on TV. So what you're going to do is you go to Google, you type in NOAA tide sensors, okay? And then what you're going to do is you want to click on the first one, and then you will see on the top in red, you see that banner where it says Hurricane Milton. We're going to click on that. And then you zoom on in to our area. And by the way, I'm in the process of trying to talk to NOAA to get us more sensors, fingers crossed, after the storm. But right now we have 2 available ones that are live streaming our water levels. So let me put up this one first. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to head to the touchscreen and we're going to talk about it. So I am working my way to the touchscreen right now. You're seeing it on TV, and here I am. So how do we analyze this? Okay, so what this is essentially, and let me zoom on in a little bit more, what we are looking at in red is going to be our current water levels. In blue is what we would have had, the normal astronomical tide, if we didn't have to deal with a hurricane. Now you can see when the storm surge event started and then how we are starting to go up. So this is based off of the data in downtown Fort Myers. And the good news is ever since Helene and ever since Debbie and especially Ian, we've been trying to get in more tide sensors. So we're building our network. We're trying, and I expect after this storm, we're going to build it even more. So let's analyze this data. Okay, I'm going to click right here, if it lets me. Come on, I know you want to. Okay, there we go. So now let's go to full. Let's go to full. And I will explain what we're looking at here, and this is what you can see at home. So the observed is going to be the water level in Fort Myers. You can see 1.73. That is our water level. The difference between the blue line and the red, that is your storm surge number. So as we do the math here, 1.73, and then you also have to factor in the minus 0.96, our current surge in Fort Myers and climbing is between about 2.5 to 3 feet. And then our inundation, that is at 1.73. Now for a reference, you see that 1.73 number during Helene, that number hit 5.12. So that's what I'm going to be watching at for a checkpoint. When we had Debbie in August, that number hit 3.2. With Hurricane Ian in 2022, that number hit 7.25. It's the all-time record in 60 years. So let's bring it back to me here in the Weather Center. That is how at home we can do this together. You can see those water levels both in Fort Myers. You can do it in Naples. I'll tell you what, let's do it right now. Let's bring up Naples. Okay, click right there. And look how the Naples storm surge is going up more drastically as they are starting to A, approach their high tide, and then B, so this is, we were at low tide, and then see how we're starting to approach the astronomical high tide. So as that occurs, the force of Milton is pushing up the water, and we are going up with a sharp increase. So now let's live on TV. We'll do this together. Let's see how Naples is doing right now. Okay. So Naples right now, their water level is at 2.33. Now remember, that's not the surge. Let's go to full and we'll once again explain it. 2.33 is the water level, oftentimes the inundation. The surge is the difference between those two numbers. So that means that Naples right now is experiencing a surge. You have to take the difference between both values, and that means that Naples is seeing a surge currently between 3 feet and 3.5 feet, but it's also climbing and rising. So now let's bring me back here. I do have some other networks that I look at. So I'm actively looking at a sensor that I have in Sarasota County, and I'll bring that up here. It seems like it doesn't want to come up at least right now. But we also have networks thanks to FGCU. Thank you guys so much. They have put up a network around the Sanibel Causeway. And what you do, you go to, let's see if I can bring that up. It has a depth. Yeah, there it is right there. They have a depth. And look at this graph. So in this graph, we have, that was Helene, near the tip of Sanibel, and then that right there is where we are currently. So the water levels are going up on Sanibel. And then as we take a look, we'll do another update, and then we'll toss it back to the anchors. We also have another sensor on Fort Myers Beach. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna find depth. It's gonna load into the system, and there was Helene, and then you can see that we are starting to go up now on Fort Myers Beach pretty drastically. Okay, we have a brand new advisory. And I tell you what, Nikki, you want to take it from here?
So we just got our latest advisory, the 5 o'clock one from the National Hurricane Center. Hurricane Milton, still a major hurricane, Category 3 storm, sustained winds of 120 miles per hour, central pressure at 948 millibars, moving to the northeast at 17 miles per hour. So here's a look at the cone, but I do want to get you a closer look, a zoomed in look at the current cone, and you will see it is beginning to narrow. So let's just zoom on in here. You will notice Cape Coral no longer in the cone, but just because you're not in the cone, that doesn't mean you're not going to be feeling the impacts, because the impacts are far from the center of the storm. So a closer look. This is, again, the latest cone from the National Hurricane Center. This is what we're actually seeing. I'm going to send it over to Matt, and he's going to further update you on this.
Yeah, that's exactly right, Nikki. Thanks so much. And here is a look at the brand new advisory that she was talking about. And we're getting to the point now where we are going to use the general location where the National Hurricane Center wants to put it. And you can see some wobbles. It definitely has been wobbling. And the white line is where it came from. The red line is the general direction that the National Hurricane Center is thinking it will head towards. And if there are no changes to this, it would put it in either extreme northern Sarasota County or southern Manatee County. But for us, yes, we avoid the worst part of the wind, but we don't avoid the surge. And we still will see those occasional hurricane force gusts, but there is the storm. And I tell you what, I'm gonna stop this right here, as we will have, this is the one part right there. So right there is very likely going to be the maximum surge event. So we can extrapolate, okay, with this general direction, that will be heading, you see that right there? We can extrapolate that will be heading northeast. So I'm going to come back in the next few minutes with more updates, but now Chris and Lois have gone from Fort Myers to Gateway at our inland and secure facility, and they are going to get you the very latest right now. Chris, Lois?
All right, Matt, thank you very much. Yeah, one of the things that we're starting to see, our reporters in the field, is that storm surge that Matt has been talking about. We're keeping a very close eye on the barrier islands, and that right now means Sanibel.
Yeah, Wake News reporter Maddie Herron is live from the Sanibel Causeway. And Maddie, how are the conditions?
The conditions are intense. Look behind me. There are huge waves crashing onto the causeway for Sanibel Island. It's all the way down there. Look at those waves. The ocean is just piling up onto the roads. I don't have any other words to describe it besides grand. This is just a grand thing to be looking at. Not in a good way, in almost an intense, scary way, because you see how powerful those waves are crashing onto the roads. Imagine if your cars were here. Imagine if people were in this area. There's no shot. You can go up against intense waves like that. And I want to take us over here so we can really see how much the ocean kind of starts to translate into the roads here. You kind of lose where one starts and the other begins because there are so many intense waves crashing up against these structures that we're seeing here. And there's also a good reason to understand why you shouldn't be out here. We are leaving immediately after this because it is not safe. You're starting to see some of these debris, sticks flying up and out, and it's one of the reasons why Sanibel is evacuated. It clearly is not safe out here, so that's why people should not be in this area. The water is, it is intense, guys. It's intense out here, and we're going to keep you updated on how people in this area are doing. But again, I want to say emergency services also had to evacuate themselves when I was here on Sanibel looking at some of those preps. Let's just go back to this bridge because you cannot get there with a normal car. It is too difficult because the wind and the waves combination, it's just too powerful. And I want to get into a few numbers here. Our chief meteorologist, Matt Devitt, had mentioned that Sanibel, specifically in the past hour or so, had 8 to 12 feet of storm surge, which we are clearly starting to see those first effects of, as well as wind speeds up to 59 miles per hour. I'm going to repeat that. Wind speeds of up to 59 miles per hour. And you can see it in the trees. Oh, you can see it in the hat too. It's definitely whipping out here. So we're going to keep you guys updated how this area is doing. But for now, live on Sanibel, Maddie Herron, Wink News.
All right, Maddie, thank you very much. Please stay safe out there. Please come out of the elements when you need to. But boy, oh boy, that's an area that is an active construction zone. And we're really hoping that it's not 2 steps forward, 10 steps back after this storm, because erosion is a very serious matter, as we all know, on the Sanibel Causeway.
And when you see surf like that in the Gulf of Mexico, you know something is wrong because the water just doesn't usually do that. Yeah. Wink News is the weather authority. Of course, we're tracking Hurricane Milton as it forces its way closer to Florida. We want to make sure we get you all the latest information. Hello again, everybody. I'm Chris Safati.
And I'm Lois Tomey. The Weather Authority meteorologists are tracking Milton closely. Wake News Chief Meteorologist Matt Devitt joins us now from the Weather Center. Matt?
So we have created a graphic where we are taking all the tidal sensors and then showing you that data live on TV. So every single one of our local sensors currently rising, and we are entering the surge event. So please mentally prepare yourself for that. Fort Myers Beach would like to correct. Fort Myers Beach not seeing 8 to 12 currently. That is the forecast. So water levels are going up on Fort Myers Beach, but 8 to 12 would be the peak. We're not seeing that right now. We're steady at St. James City, but that's temporary. That will likely bump up. Cape Coral rising, Fort Myers going up, and all the way towards even the Franklin Lock, we have a sensor there. Naples has been going up fairly quickly. Marco Island, as well as Everglades City. We had noted some of the wind, and by the way, before I even get to that, let me show you that 5 o'clock advisory. If you missed it a little bit ago, it has now been slightly lower to a Category 3. Winds are at 120. The pressure's at 948 millibars. It's pushing to the northeast at 7 and just a few hours away from its landfall, but the landfall will not be in Charlotte County. It will not be in Lee or even Collier County. It will be just up the coast. And the worst part of the storm, let's analyze this. The worst part of the storm in terms of wind, you can see that on radar now. So let me show you, we have multiple ways in which we can analyze these storms, and there's going to be your well-defined eye, and right there, this is what during Ian, Charlotte County, DeSoto, and Sarasota County got. Well, they're going to get it for Tampa Bay, Hillsborough, Pinellas. You can imagine, unfortunately, the power outages, it will be widespread. And then towards Manatee and Sarasota County. Let me switch over to what we call our velocity or wind product. And there are some pretty significant winds, and this shows you what part of the storm has the strongest wind. You see that pocket of pink and even some white? I did notice I'm not seeing as much white as I did an hour ago, so that is a sign of slight weakening, but all relative. It's still going to be very powerful. But let's look at this together. This is analyzing some of the wind in the eye wall of the storm. So here's how it looks on radar. Here's how it looks on radar, but we're going to take a deep dive under the hood inside of the storm. This is the velocity, the wind, and I am right now analyzing that winds are currently in the northwestern eye wall, upwards of 144 to 128. I did another observation. Let me move that out of the way. That is the type of wind that is inside of the storm aloft that's going to be working its way towards the Florida West Coast. Now, for Southwest Florida, we don't see this, thank goodness. But what may be a blessing for us is going to be a misfortune for someone else as that heads towards the Tampa Bay area. But as far as our wind is concerned on the southern half, let's analyze some of the winds on the southern eye wall, which we will see in Southwest Florida. And some of the wind that is right now being analyzed, there's 90, 87, and I did one more on the southern eye wall. Yeah, so those are hurricane force gusts, and that's going to be moving in to Southwest Florida. So that was some of the wind we had talked about for later this evening. Let me show you that with our future track model as we have our wind analysis as we go into time. So let me show you that. This is going to be the hour by hour wind product, and it shows right now we've been gusting into the 40s, 50s, at times even 60s, and then notice how we start to get, I'm going to backtrack a little bit for you. Once we hit about 8 o'clock and 9, then we start to potentially get in some hurricane force gusts. That's as Milton starts to make its landfall. So this is the American model showing some of the winds that could gust in Southwest Florida. European model pretty similar too. As we hit about 11 o'clock and midnight, 60s, 70s, and 80s for parts of our area. As you can imagine, power outages will be possible. I think I mentioned this about an hour ago. This is a bit unconventional, but what happens is when we get into this type of coverage, I'm going to become extremely descriptive on what I'm saying, because when people lose power, they can't see me. So they can listen to me as well as the entire wing team over the radio. So there will be a bit of a transition with that later tonight. Here's a look at some of those higher winds in the 50s, 60s, 70s, still tropical storm force gusts for early tomorrow morning. And then you can see as we go into time, Chris and Lois, we will start to see gradually an improvement in the wind speed as they go down a bit by the second half of Thursday.
All right, thank you very much, Matt. We're just getting some breaking news in from Lee County. We're learning from the county government that they are now saying it is time to shelter in place. Do not go out on the road. Do not go out on the bridges. They don't believe it is safe for you to do so. And remember, they say that when storms winds reach sustained 45 miles per hour, they're going to pull all the emergency responders off the roads too. And they will not be able to come to you to rescue you, but they will continue to keep a list of where those 911 calls are made so they can get to it as soon as the conditions are safe. But they're saying it is time to shelter in place as Hurricane Milton is approaching our coastline.
We've been seeing tornadoes earlier in the day, and one of the areas that saw some of the worst of them were Lake Fairways in North Fort Myers. Let's go to Wink News reporter Zoe Warner, who's there tonight. Zoe, there was just a lot of devastation there.
Chris and Lois, that's right. We've been out here all day talking to neighbors who have been directly impacted by the tornadoes. And I just want you to take a look behind me at this home that is just completely devastated. The roof is gone. The house is just deconstructed all the way. You can even see, I want you to take a look at some of this metal pieces that just kind of flew off of the house. And I want you to take a look over here as well. Some of the metal pieces are just hanging off the tree, barely. If anybody was really on this road right now, it would be completely unsafe. And as soon as the wind starts to pick up, I'm sure that's going to come flying in this direction as well. And so we're just kind of walking down this road, taking a look. There's more metal pieces, more just super destructive, very dangerous for people to be out here at this moment. Thank God nobody is out here currently. We've been talking to neighbors again, and a lot of neighbors have just been completely devastated. But it seems like a lot of neighbors have a community here. They are checking on each other. They are making sure everybody's okay. A neighbor that I spoke with earlier who was directly impacted by the tornado said he jumped on top of his mom just to make sure she was okay. And they are both currently okay. They are safe. Nothing has happened to them. But I just want you guys to take one more scenic look at what is going on behind me. The winds are definitely starting to pick up a little bit. We're across the street, actually, from the home that was flipped over completely on its side earlier. Neighbors were going out and checking on those neighbors, making sure they're safe. I also talked to another neighbor, too, who went inside some of the homes and was just grabbing some of the essential items from those homes to bring to the neighbors who have been recently evacuated and just took them away to shelters. And so neighbors have just really been helping each other out in this area. It seems like community is super, super strong. But like you guys said, it's super important to get off the road, stay safe, go somewhere, find shelter. But we'll make sure to keep you guys updated. Live here in North Fort Myers, Zoe Warner, Wink News.
All right, Zoe, thank you very much. We'll keep tabs on what's going on there. It's good to see that everybody is off the street. I know they wanted to help, which is great.
Yeah,
they did,
yeah.
but it's important that they, like she said, get to someplace safe because there is all that debris on the road. We're also going to get Zoe out of there as it starts to get dark so that we don't have any of our people get hurt.
Right, but it is time to shelter in place. It's not time to be out there. Even though you have good intentions, it's not the right time. We don't need any more difficulties to deal with. Well, let's look at some video that's coming to us. A damage from near the Bell Tower Mall earlier today. This is in the Villas neighborhood, which wraps right around the Bell Tower shops. And you can see all the tree damage, all the trees down. Look at that RV just tossed over on top of that car. This was sent to us about 3:20 p.m. Of course, all these tornado possibilities need to be confirmed, but you can see the extensive damage there in the Villas neighborhood.
Here's some video of a car that was crushed by a tree. This is the same neighborhood. Well, that was the same video, but look at this car. This is the same neighborhood as Lois was just talking about. This is also right near Bell Tower. Possible tornado again. This was sent to us about 4 o'clock. This string of tornadoes, though, that were around the Villas and Bell Tower happened around lunchtime, a little bit after noon today. There were several of them in that same area.
And now we're going to head down to downtown Fort Myers, where the big concern, of course, in downtown is the storm surge. They're very worried about having flooding. They've dealt with it many times before. Businesses were just cleaning up, some just cleaning up again from Helene, some not even done, and really do not want any more water in the neighborhood.
Wink News reporter Liz Byro is checking out downtown for us. Liz, how are folks doing there?
Yeah, Chris, Lowe's, we really do not want that flooding in the downtown area. Now, for context, low tide here in downtown Fort Myers, 4:45. So we are just passing that now. You can see the water right now. Maybe a little hard to see, but I'll describe it to you at home. It's a little choppy, but nothing crazy. The water looks a little higher, but again, nothing crazy. I do want to give some context for you. I was in downtown Fort Myers during Helene, 9 in the morning before that storm hit. First Ave and Park Ave were seeing water pooling in the streets, and Matt Devitt will tell you every storm is different. It depends on the tide. It depends on all kinds of conditions. But right now, driving around downtown Fort Myers, you're not seeing that pooling. Does not mean you should be out on the road. So, of course, we had that Lee County's shelter-in-place order. But I do want to show you right now, I'm currently behind the Royal Palm Towers. This is right next to Edison Grand, and I'm here protected by a building because it is so gusty in downtown Fort Myers. I'm going to show you if we can look at the grass right now. Maybe hard to tell, but these gusts are strong. They're strong enough to knock you over, and I know that because it almost happened to me. I did move to safety, but it was when I was trying to check out these fences over by the downtown Fort Myers Marina. I mean, look at this. But Jesse, if we can show what the fences should look like standing up, and then you see where they just came down. These were being weighted down at the base by sandbags, by rock. That was not enough. That fence is going down. It looks like it just wants to fly. The good news is right now in downtown Fort Myers, again, no water, but we are not at high tide. We just passed low tide at 4:45. It is gusty. You just don't want to be out here right now. I'm going to send it on back to you all.
All right, Liz, thank you very much. Yeah, that is certainly one area that everybody will be looking at very carefully tonight. We have crews also in some of the high rises along First Street to keep an eye on the bridges, to keep an eye on First Street, to keep an eye on downtown because it is such a flood-prone area. And they just went through it.
They did. And in Ian, the streets look like rivers, and we don't want that again, for sure. Well, with strong winds and several confirmed tornadoes across southwest Florida already today, many communities have suffered significant damage.
Wink News reporter Haley Zarconi joins us live in the Villas in South Fort Myers. We've been talking about this area a lot, right near Bell Tower. Haley, there's some damage there. Tell us what you see.
Yeah, that's right. I'm standing here in the Villas off of Exeter Street and Sunrise Boulevard. And look at this tree behind me. We've got two here. These are two of many more that I'm about to show you because this area saw a possible tornado here earlier today. We're going to walk this way and I'm going to show you all those other trees that I'm talking about. Take a look at this. This entire yard, from one house to the next, trees down, they're all down, and they've fallen on what looks to be possibly a cable line, maybe a power line. This is the kind of damage that now that they have taken EMS out of the roads, you do not want to be out if power lines are down. I'm not stepping any closer to this than I need to be because there is danger when you see things like that. But this is what a possible tornado left of this neighborhood, and we got pictures after pictures and videos of just what that tornado left here as far as destruction. Thankfully, this house, it doesn't look like there's any debris up on top of there, and we have this one over here behind my photographer. They have their doors and windows boarded up, but nothing up there. I briefly spoke with a woman who lived inside that home because she saw us out in front of her house. She knew exactly why we were here because of this debris. She said that it was loud, and they did have this tornado here today, that they felt it, but thankfully, they did not have any destruction at their house from it. But you can see it on me. We're starting to feel these gusts of wind. We've had bands and after band of rain come in. So I'm going to go ahead and toss it back to you guys. Live in the Villas, Haley Zarconi, Wink News.
All right, Haley, thank you very much. Yeah, we're starting to see our reporters in more places now talk about the wind picking up a little bit and the bands of rain again. It kind of matches what Matt was showing us at the very top of the newscast, so we'll keep an eye on that. Let's check out Charlotte County now. People who left Charlotte County behind and evacuated are worried about all this that was left on the street there, all this debris. These images are from Manasota Key. The streets just lined with debris. This is left over from Helene, so going into tonight, that will mostly all be still on their streets.
And we have some more video sent to us by Ashley Mann. It happened about 12:39 p.m. Just watch this video. Matt was warning about a tornado moving through the area at the time, and Ashley was seeing this. They got hit by what seemed like a tornado, she said. She's in the 4000 block of Garden Boulevard in Cape Coral. She said there's much more damage that you can't see on the video because, of course, she was just getting this from her Nest camera or whatever, her security camera, and you can just see the wind just starting to whip things around. It was really a scary moment for them.
Yeah, so that's Cape Coral. We have another image of some damage in Cape Coral. This is the village of Entrada off Del Prado. This is from 3:30 today. You can see what looked like there was a pool cage there, right? We saw parts of a pool cage there. Again, Cape Coral viewer video, damage to the side and front or back of their house there. It really did make a mess right by their swimming pool.
It just reminds you there's so many tornadoes in these bands of hurricanes, and you think that it's not here yet. The worst is not here yet, but you already can see these isolated tornadoes that can do a lot of damage when they pass through. Well, Wink News reporter Zoe Warner joins us live from Lake Fairways in North Fort Myers, where they saw a lot of damage from one of these suspected tornadoes today. Zoe.
That's right, Lois. I'm still here in Lake Fairways in North Fort Myers. And as you can see behind me, the North Fort Myers Fire Department is out here cleaning all of this debris up. Thankfully, they're getting it out of harm's way. Nobody is in the road at this point, so nobody's going to be impacted, hopefully, by this debris. But they are trying to move it out to safety as best as possible. Hopefully, we can get some trucks out here soon to clean all of this debris up so it doesn't become a weapon when winds start to get up and get faster. But as you can see, just look at these homes, Chris and Lois. Look how bad they are right now. The debris is just all over the front yard. These are people's homes. These are people's livelihoods, and they're just completely destroyed. But, you know, the fire department is still out here. They are still trying to clean up everything as quickly as possible, trying to respond to all the neighborhood that has been impacted by these suspected tornadoes. I want you to take a look over there at that home. Just look at the roof. look at the roof and see how all of their stuff, it seems like bins, some of their personal items just sitting out there in their front yard, just destroyed. This garage right here, if you take a look to the left of me, just completely destroyed. The suspected tornado, I guess, ripped through most of these homes over here in Lake Fairways. But as I said earlier, this community has such a strong sense of support. Again, the firefighters are out here. They're going probably to the next destination to try to clear up any other debris that is left in the neighborhood. But again, like I said, the community is so strong. They are supporting each other. They are trying to help each other out. They're going around. I've been seeing them go on their golf carts, trying to help each other out, pick up debris and stuff. But the fire department, we're going to let them go and pass us so they can get to the next destination and hopefully help some people. But we thank them for coming and trying to get the debris out the road as safely as possible. You can see them here. It's one big truck and another truck right here just helping the debris get out of harm's way. So we'll make sure to keep you guys updated live here in North Fort Myers. Zoe Warner, Wink News.
Yeah. It's great to see the fire department there. You can see the difference behind her and part of where she was sitting to get rid of some of that stuff before the winds pick up.
Lake Fairways is a tight community. She's right about that. They do have a good sense of community there for sure.
Yep.
But let's go to Matt. And Matt, as we're looking at these new updates from the National Hurricane Center, I'm wondering if you can talk to us a little bit about whether or not this hurricane is behaving the way it was anticipated to behave as we were watching it a couple days ago.
Yeah, everything is going according to plan as far as the shear, if not doing a little bit better than expected, but it's still powerful, still a major hurricane. The pressure right now is at 948 millibars, category 3. It's not impossible. It makes landfall as a 2, but at this point, it's a 120, category 3. Let's take a look here. As expected, there's that wind shear, and as it approached the Florida coastline, it started to see that shear, and that's what we like, boy, as it has really taken a toll on the storm. No longer a Cat 5, no longer a Cat 4, but the problem is, even though the wind category may come down, it can still carry a surge level that may be a category higher than what the wind category has. So that is something to keep in mind. Let's analyze the very latest on radar. As this storm, let's see if we have any wobbles, if it's going according to plan. And as we zoom on in, I'll show you that with our kind of wobble tracker. And, maybe a slight nudge to the east as of late, but nothing too crazy here. We still are going to be watching the progress here. The white line is where it came from. The red line is where the National Hurricane Center expects it to go. Now let's talk about the anatomy of this storm. There's a couple things that we can dissect here. First off, the eye wall. So let me zoom back in. Worst part of the storm. So that's going to be the worst part of the storm in multiple ways. So first off, this right here is the maximum wind. And we can see that and we can analyze that as I switch over to our velocity product. And you see this one pocket right there, that sliver of pink and white. That is the strongest winds in Milton right there. And it's in the northwest quadrant. But we still have some strong winds on the southern side. But as we extrapolate this out, that is going to be working its way very likely towards highly populated areas of Tampa Bay, Clearwater, all the way towards Longboat Key. And as we analyze some of the wind speeds in this hurricane, they are right now registering at 138 miles an hour, 131 up in the storm. And what happens is the bands of rain rotating around the storm have the ability to take a good amount of that down to the ground. Maybe not all of it, but a good amount of it. Let's take a look here at also the eye wall, which is now starting to approach Charlotte County and even Lee County. So here is going to be, you almost have almost two eye walls. There's a circulation spot right there, and then you have a bigger eye wall right here. Now this one is going to be weakening, if not collapsing as we speak. So this is going to be the primary eye wall. That is where the winds will pick up. And you also have the greatest force of the water. So the reason why I bring that up, and let's see if I can clear out some of these warnings You're going to see it pop up here momentarily. I want to extrapolate this out, and meaning I want to show you where that's going. So I'm going to draw on here where I believe there will be very likely the maximum amount of surge. So I'm going to draw this on. We're going to do an arrow, and this was very similar to Ian. We had the southern part of the eye wall during Ian go to Sanibel, to Fort Myers Beach, Bonita Beach. That's why they had the worst surge. So this is going to bring right here the maximum surge, right there. So as we take the direction in which it was coming from, and we kind of analyze that out as we go into time, that means that it would likely, I would say within this line and up, would likely see the absolute worst surge from this storm. Now, don't think that south of that line you're not going to see anything. You will. I expect surge in Lee County. I expect a good amount of surge for areas of Collier County. And we're seeing that right now. It's just that the absolute highest amount of surge is going to be, as you can imagine, closer to the core, the eye wall. And that means for areas of Sarasota County, we are going to have a good amount of flooding in Charlotte County, Lee County, absolutely, and also Collier County as well. So if we could, I actually would like to show you, and then I'll come back to the weather wall. Let's go to full here. Can we punch up the touch screen camera? And you're going to see real quick some power outages, but I would like to also bring up the water levels. We're going to do that interactively, as I do have some of the water levels live in progress, and we're going to do this together. So here is, and this is, there's nothing better live than this. This is going to be, and I'm here controlling this. You see the red line? That is our water level. In blue, that is the astronomical tide, or basically the high tide, low tide, and what you see above it is the difference in the surge. Okay, so, and tell you what, yeah, let me hop on over there. Let me hop on over there. So right now, what we have in blue and red is your water level, and where we are seeing the difference is going to be, I'm walking over here, definitely get my steps in today, as we have the prediction and then the observed. So let me translate this. Water level is 1.9 right now in Fort Myers. The difference between these lines, that's your surge. That's the current surge. So right now the surge in Fort Myers, and it's going up, this is downtown Fort Myers, this is not even equating what's happening at the beach, is almost approaching 3 feet of storm surge. So we are almost already at 3 feet of storm surge. Let's go to full once again, and I'm going to switch to another tide sensor that we have, and this one is in Naples. Now at last check, this tide sensor was going up even faster. So let's take a look at the live data coming in, and there we go. So the surge event started at 11 a.m. And since then, over the past 5 hours, it has increased now by this much. And the difference between these two values is your surge. So 2.88 minus 0.92, good rule of thumb. Right now, Naples is experiencing 3.5 to 4 feet of surge. Now, the part that we especially care about is the red, the observed. That is going to be your amount of water in feet above the average high tide. That's essentially an inundation number. And we had, during Helene, let me give you a historical reference here. During Helene, we had 4 feet. So we're about 1 1/10 inches shy of that. During Ian, Naples had 6 feet, and then the sensor got washed away. So we actually don't know the highest with Ian. But that should be a reference here. We are starting to get into the red category of flooding. And then in the purple, that's when we're starting to get into major flooding in Collier County. So water levels are going up. And here's the deal, everybody. Watch my mouse cursor right here. The blue, we basically extrapolate and go into time, see how we're approaching high tide already, even without a hurricane. And on top of that, I expect the water levels to continue to go up because we're following that high tide trend. Okay, so we are going to be on alert, watching these surge levels across Southwest Florida. Okay, so now let's switch over to Wink Live Doppler 3X. I'm back in the Weather Center, and let's get you also caught up to speed on some of the current observations that we have. Let's punch up Weather 1. Let's punch up Weather 1. Hello, here I am, as we do have the storm working its way towards the Southwest Florida coast. Let's put a time lapse on it, show you where it's coming from and where it is heading, generally to the northwest, and there is one of the outer bands where the winds are picking up. What are those winds? Well, needless to say, before we even get to that, the angry Gulf has been kicking up those waves. Here's a new assessment of some of the wave heights that we have right now in Southwest Florida, upwards of about 20 to 30 feet in the core of the storm, and then just offshore of our coast, we are at about 10 to 15 feet. The storm surge forecast, once again to reiterate, is right now at 8 to 12 in red for Lee and Charlotte County. The one exception is going to be the sliver from Boca Grande to Englewood Beach. That includes Don Pedro Island. You know, they're very susceptible to storm surge. And then all the way towards Sarasota. And then 5 to 8 feet for areas of Collier County. Here's going to be the main storm surge timing, as it will be eventually starting to peak. I'll show you where we are right now. So here we are, and kind of match that graphic I showed you a little bit ago, and we're going to continue to go up for this evening, maximize overnight, and then we're still elevated into tomorrow, but we're going to start to gradually improve. So maximum surge is going to be late this evening, overnight, and then still elevated into tomorrow. And we saw this with Helene. Hey, Nikki, what camera is that? This is Sanibel Lighthouse. Tell you what, let's punch up Nikki's camera, Weather 2, and let's put that behind me. This is the Sanibel Lighthouse, and it was showing some quite a bit of flooding. I wonder if it can zoom out in its view. It was showing quite a bit of flooding when I caught it a second ago. And yeah, there it is. Okay, so we have some water coming in. This is right near the lighthouse. So there's your surge, as that will continue to move across Sanibel Island. And they may even rotate this around towards the, I don't control it, but they may try to rotate it around towards the lighthouse. But there is the surge starting to come in. We also, hey, in the back, if it's possible, I saw flooding at the Pink Shell on Fort Myers Beach. The Pink Shell on Fort Myers Beach. If you're able to get that up, and feel free, don't wait for me. You can put it up behind me. But look at the waves crashing in. I just showed you the wave heights. Live shot from Sanibel at the lighthouse, as the wind rotating around Milton is forcing up the water. And let's take a look once again at the high tide times. I've had a couple viewers that have been asking me, hey, can you show this again for us? And let's take a look here. Englewood, Gasparilla Sound, Charlotte Harbor, all the way towards Boca Grande, into Lee County. There's Fort Myers, which actually right now for Fort Myers is about low tide. The high tide is going to be later. Cape Coral, your high tide is tomorrow morning. Fort Myers Beach, it's going to be overnight towards about 5 a.m. Sanibel, you're looking at about 5 a.m. And same type of trend for Captiva. And then into Collier County, let's take a look here. Everglades City, Marco Island, and extending towards Naples, as that's when we would see the maximum water level rise around that point overnight and all the way towards sunrise. So thank you so much, everybody, for the questions that you've had online. I'm happy to address it as much as possible. Another one, and I know today has just been, personally, this has been the worst tornado outbreak I've ever seen in Southwest Florida in a couple years, even more than the one we had in 2022. Multiple tornadoes, large tornadoes. The one in Clewiston was probably the largest I've ever seen in Southwest Florida. That threat gradually should start to go down. I hope that that lowers at least some anxiety and stress. The tornado threat, especially after midnight, will start to go down. These are the current wind speeds, and I think we've lost a couple sensors. Yeah, the Cape Coral one's not accurate. I'll see if I can update that one for you. We lost Page Field, 56 for Englewood right now, 58 in Naples. We're at 58 for Marco Island, 50 for Lehigh Acres, 46 for Golden Gate, and 50, the current wind gusts, right now for Northport. So that's the type of tropical storm force wind we currently have. Again, for Cape Coral, I'll try to help you out in a little bit. You're not at 4. You can probably add a 0 on that, if not a little bit more. This is going to be the wind gust forecast as we go into time, and you'll see right now we're experiencing tropical storm gusts. Even some hurricane force gusts will be into the mix as we go later this evening. Take a look at 9, 10, 11, midnight, 1, 2, 3 a.m., and that's where power outages will be possible. But we're going to be with you every step of the way, and you will get those updates as they come in. And then you notice how it goes down into tomorrow, and it's still going to be gusty, but not to the caliber of our main event with some of the wind for the late evening and overnight. We are updating those power outages as they come in. I want to show you the future track model as we go into time, and this is basically how I expect things to play out for the remainder of the evening and all the way overnight. So there's going to be your storm, the core of it. There's the eye wall, which you'll notice our computer model continues to keep it away. But the southern eye wall, that's the storm surge troublemaker. That one pushes to the northeast, and that's what we're going to see for areas of Sarasota County, Charlotte County, and Lee County. And that's why we wanted to keep you safe from it. And you know, the water levels will be going up this evening, but frequent updates every hour. You can trust that from us. I'm going to get you those updates on the water levels. That way there are no surprises and you are completely in the loop. Here's a look at 9 o'clock, some of the tail end bands of showers and thunderstorms. And then by 11 o'clock and all the way towards about midnight, we still continue to see the water levels get pushed up. Here's a look at 3, 4, and 5 with some of these wraparound bands as the storm eventually starts to exit. And Chris and Lois, I'm going to now toss it back to you, but what we'll do is once I come back in a little bit, I'll get you an update on those water levels and the very latest analysis on Hurricane Milton on radar.
Okay, thank you very much, Matt. You're talking so much about surge. We want to show people one of the cameras we're going to keep an eye on throughout the night. This is a live look at a surge cam courtesy of Starship Adventures. This is at Moody Road and Grenier Drive in North Fort Myers. And I don't know if Ian is watching while we're showing this cam, but you see some of the damage on that home right across the street. They are near a waterway that is linked to the Caloosahatchee River in North Fort Myers. And so he has a surge cam there that will keep an eye on how quickly the water might rise up out of that waterway into the streets and around the homes. And as you look at different views, he switches this camera around. We might see different angles as we go to it throughout the evening. But there's still a lot of debris in the streets here because these homes took on more water again during Hurricane Helene. And so people have been making repairs, and some of that debris has not been picked up yet. But we'll keep an eye on this camera throughout the night. It looks great right now. We're hoping it stays that way, but we don't know with the surge.
Sure, there's a whole neighborhood full of people that hope it stays that way, watching to see what happens in neighborhoods like that, too. And just across the river there, downtown Fort Myers, let's go to Tiffany Rizzo live at the High Point Condominiums. Elevated view of downtown Fort Myers to kind of keep track of how we're doing there.
Yeah, Chris, so the biggest thing that I'm noticing over here is the wind gusts. And a lot of the other reporters were talking about that wind. Now, luckily, I have a high-rise blocking a lot of that wind coming towards me. But I'll kind of take a look behind me, and you can see with those trees how powerful these winds are. And I've also been keeping an eye on the Caloosahatchee water levels. That water is continuing to rise, but this area is known for flooding. If you take a look on First Street, there's no water on the roads just yet. We're not seeing any flooding, but that surge we're going to keep an eye on because we know when it does come in, it's going to come in quick, and this area is known for that flooding. We haven't seen any of that just yet, just really a lot of wind gusts in this area. So we're going to be keeping an eye on it. The reason me and Amy Osher are here is to keep an eye on that surge as it comes in those later hours. So we'll keep you updated on all of that. I'm live in downtown Fort Myers, Tiffany Rizzo, Wink News.
All right, thank you very much. She's got such a good view there for a couple of reasons. One, the elevation, but two, she can see a couple of the areas that are known to flood first.
Well, and you see that boat that's still there from
Right.
Hurricane Ian hasn't been removed yet.
So we can kind of use that shot throughout the night,
Yeah,
too, to monitor
measure
how
it.
the water
Right.
rises on that
Right.
side, and then take a look at First Street as
Right.
well. Let's show you this video, a tornado touchdown or possible tornado touchdown off of Colonial. not far from Summerlin by De Leon Street.
This is De Leon, right on De Leon Street, right by Orangewood Elementary School. You see the church there? That's where that tornado damage happened, and they had some severe damage in that area. This is just a short video here. We have some other video that we're working on turning around and getting to you a little later in this area off Colonial Boulevard, between 41 and Summerlin.
Yeah, we heard from quite a few people who live in the neighborhoods in and around there today about trees down and things like that. The tornado video here of Matlacha. This is Matlacha Park. Again, a possible tornado there this afternoon. All these need to be investigated, but you can see the aftermath of whatever it was, whether it was a straight line wind or a tornado that came through. And all of these kind of happened about the same time. If you weren't watching, all these things we're telling you about, Villas, Bell Tower, Fort Myers, North Fort Myers, it all happened right about the same time.
Let's go now to video from Fort Myers at Jefferson and La Palma Street, and you can see all the tree debris down on the street. This came into our newsroom about 3:30. This damage happened a little bit earlier than that. People said it sounded like a freight train in their neighborhood. Tree limbs down, fences down, debris everywhere. This is not in an evacuation zone, so I imagine there were a lot of people who were there at the time, and it was probably pretty scary.
I would imagine it was scary. Look at some waves. Marco Island, Kevin Olzak from Marco Island sending us video of the surf. You wouldn't believe me if I told you on any other day. This is Marco Island.
Wow.
And this is the Gulf of Mexico. Look at the surf this afternoon. This came in about 3 o'clock, so we took it probably early this afternoon, just crashing over the rocks there.
We want to take you to Englewood right now, where people were on their boats in Englewood, and Wink News reporter Taylor Wirtz was there at about 3 p.m., and she said she could hear music coming from these boats. We're really hoping people are not on them, but there are some liveaboards out there, so we don't know if people evacuated or if they're still there, just keeping an eye on their homes. We already talked to the one gentleman who was in his truck who drove up and was just looking out on the harbor, looking at his boat, hoping it was going to be okay, just taking a look at it, but he evacuated. We hope everybody else did too.
Yep. People who left Charlotte County behind and evacuated are worried about what will happen to all of this debris on the street. This is Manasota Key, so an area that was hard hit by Helene. This is debris from Helene that they had taken out of their homes and hadn't had, city and the county hadn't had time to deal with it yet. But this could become very dangerous later on tonight, especially, you think about wind right away, but too, if the water rises and has a current to it, it can take a lot of this stuff with it and just make it dangerous if anybody's out there, or dangerous to property if it wouldn't otherwise be.
All this high wind and these possible tornadoes has led to some power outages in our area. So we want to go out to take a look at what's happening in our area, where the outages are. Let's go to Sylvie Sparks, who I understand is in the studio monitoring all of that for us.
That's right, Lois. Lots of people without power. Of course, those tornadoes, warnings coming through, that wind damaging power lines we saw. So let's take a look. Here we are at the LCEC power outage website. You can see over here several in our region without power. Now, North Fort Myers with the most right now, almost 4,000 LCEC customers without power. If we click around on here, there's about 700 people in this one area right near the Caloosahatchee Bridge without power as of 3:41. Over here, we're seeing a little finicky right now. This screen is but like I said, lots of people in Lehigh Acres as well. There's a few power outages over there. Let's go to the FPL website and take a look. We'll start in Collier County. They had lots of tornado warnings this morning. Right now, this says there are 530 people without power. This is as of 5 o'clock, so just about 48 minutes ago. And we'll take a look at Lee County now. 5,240 people without power using FPL. Let's see about Charlotte County. They have 680 people. All of this is as of 5 o'clock this evening. Crews are working to restore power, but of course we have more Hurricane Milton to deal with, so we'll have to see how long that takes them to get things sorted. In DeSoto County has no one without power, so that's good news for y'all in DeSoto County right now. Again, my screen's being a little finicky. Hendry County, same thing, zero people without power right now. So definitely seems to be Lee County has the most area of power outages in our area right now.
All right, we'll keep track of that throughout the night too for folks who have power, who want to check on other people, perhaps on a cell phone that may not have power, or if you want to know in your neighborhood if you've evacuated, we'll try to keep track of that for you.
And you know what? The crews are ready to go. They just need safe weather to work. And once the weather is safe enough for them to work, they'll be out there doing the job.
So hopefully that will be sooner than later, but we'll see how the night goes. Thousands of people in the area, as Sylvie said, experiencing power outages if you total them up as Milton makes it closer. Governor held a news conference this afternoon where he addressed the whole issue of power. He says Florida is fully prepared for the inevitable widespread outages.
You see these linemen that are behind me. This is one of the processing sites here in Lake City for Florida Power and Light. We've had linemen come from all over the continental United States. California, people are coming. Others have come. So we will have over 50,000 linemen that are pre-staged in the state of Florida. As soon as the storm passes, they are going to go to work. And look, if you are in the path of this storm, you are most likely going to lose power. We just did Hurricane Helene. That was 2.4 million restorations, as fast as it's ever been done in the history, I think, probably of all hurricanes in the U.S. This one, coming on the heels of Helene, where you still have hundreds of thousands of people out of power in other parts of the country, like North Carolina and Georgia, you have a lot of linemen who are working in those areas. So the fact that we got over 50,000, that in and of itself is a big deal, but especially considering that you have a lot of people that are still at work in the aftermath of Helene in these other states. It's really, really remarkable. So
I'll be so happy to have that army of electricians out there working, doing the job, for sure.
Yeah, people will be happy to see them.
Yeah.
But with the strong winds and several confirmed tornadoes across southwest Florida, a lot of communities have already suffered some significant damage just today.
Yeah, Wink News reporter Haley Zarconi joins us in the Villas neighborhood in Fort Myers, where we've seen some pretty dramatic pictures. Haley, I understand you're talking to some people there.
That's exactly right, because the Villas has been a big talker because they had a possible tornado touchdown here today. I'm on LaSalle Avenue here. I mean, there's no other way to prompt this. Take a look at this. This is an RV that has fallen over perfectly, I might add. It is balancing on these two tires right here. That's what's holding this RV up. And on the other side of this RV, this Jeep. Look at that. I mean, there's really not too much to say. It is just a wow factor kind of moment. And this is that possible tornadoes what caused this. And I'm talking to Adam and Evie here. I hear you guys went through that tornado earlier. Talk to me about what led up to that.
Yeah, we did. So we were at our house and watching the news, obviously, and watching the storm come in, and got the announcement that Villas was 2 minutes out from a tornado. And so we got everybody to the closet. And when we were inside the closet, our ears started to pop, and we heard they say the freight train is coming, and we heard the howl of like a freight train, and it was only lasted about a minute, but we were pretty sure that a tornado came on the outside. So.
Yeah. Do you remember what that was like? Was it loud?
Loud.
It was loud?
Were
Yeah.
you scared?
Oh. Were you a little scared? No, you're fearless. You look like it. Talk to me about how have you guys prepared for Milton? I know we're kind of in the thick of it here, so.
Yeah, so we don't have power right now, unfortunately. The tornado did take out our power. So we went for a little walk to get a little fresh air, and while in between the rain ban. So we got our windows boarded up, and we did everything we could to be prepared for the storm. And now we're just watching the track, and looks like it went a little bit towards Tampa, and hoping that's the case for our sake, but obviously feel bad for the people up north. So
Absolutely. And one last question, just looking at this RV, what was your reaction when you saw this?
We saw it actually on the Facebook, the group, the neighborhood page, and we obviously saw it was a street right next to us, so we walked around the corner and saw it, but pretty wild. I'm glad it's not my RV that's standing on its end, but we're just out here looking to make sure everybody and all the neighbors are okay and safe, and happy to be safe ourselves. So
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Adam. It was so nice to meet you. It was so nice to meet you, Abby. Continue to be fearless through this storm, okay? And Godspeed, guys. Be safe. This is all I have for you here in the Villas. I'm going to go ahead and toss it back to you guys. Live in the Villas, Haley Zarconi, Wink News.
Wow. That is some picture right there when you see that thing on its side.
When we saw Haley standing next to it, it just gave such an incredible perspective. It's amazing what a tornado can do. Just like
Just like that. And there was, again, that was that path that we were following all afternoon. If you're watching around noon, 1 o'clock, it kind of went all the way through the area.
Yeah.
You're watching Wink News, the Weather Authority. We're tracking Hurricane Milton. We'll be right back.
Looking for a reason to try the new $5 meal deal at McDonald's? Here's 1, 2, 3, 4, and the price makes 5. That's everything you get with the new $5 meal deal at McDonald's.
We believe our culture is welcoming to all, but what do Jess and Jen think?
Oftentimes we have to do our research beforehand to determine whether or not it's a safe space. The local people of Tahiti were so surprisingly, genuinely friendly. We felt really welcome and nothing but embraced. It was amazing. We're going to be talking about this for the rest of our life.
Everyone will feel treasured